Day two of racing here at the virtual Tour of America's Dairyland as we get ready to send our pro men off first this afternoon. We're headed to Grafton, Wisconsin for the Giro de Grafton, the second of 4 days of racing this weekend on the final stop of the Echelon Racing League as we wrap up what has been a wild season of virtual racing. Brad Stoner here with Frankie Andreu and our in real life race promoter, race director, and all around cool guy from the Tour of America's Dairyland, Tom the Plow Schuler. Tom, I want to start with you. This is such a classic course for the Tour of America's Dairyland. I think it goes all the way back to the start of Toad, if I'm correct.
Yeah, that's right, Brad. Grafton was our first race to commit, first city to commit to the newly formed Tour of America's Dairyland 12 years ago. And it's a classic course. It's an L-shaped, 6 corners with a nice hill, strong yard parties on the backside, and a big, wide 400-meter finish from the last corner. As you know, you've called the race many times. You can see him coming out of that last corner, and the excitement just builds because if you go too early, you're not going to win. So it's a big, wide finish, and just great community support. It's really like a block party that happens to have a bike race.
I like that descriptor. Very well said. This is always one of the hardest fought races on the schedule as well because everybody wants to win at the Giro de Grafton. It's just one of those classic courses and a big crowd there everywhere as well. Who doesn't like winning in front of a big crowd? Frankie, let's talk more about today after we get to yesterday. I want to talk about the Janesville Town Square Grand Prix yesterday because I think what we're going to see today will be probably pretty similar to what we saw yesterday, that being a field sprint, some early attacks, but I think most of these criteriums will probably play out pretty similarly.
Well, I think just like in real life, you're going to have a lot of attacks and a lot of riders kind of stretching their legs. But in the end, if a team decides to come to the front, the speed is going to be high and it's going to make for a very tough sprint. And yesterday, Usborne did a fantastic job timing it for the win perfectly with Ben Thomas coming right behind him. So these two guys still battling it out for the overall. And the other part with the Dairyland, you get through day one, you get through day two, day three, that fatigue is going to start to be the difference maker when we get to the sprints.
Usborne comes in at 108.47 with a 4.47 average watts per kilo. Pretty high for Usborne on a day like that. You said Ben Thomas in for second. Timmy Bauer held on for third yesterday. Above and Beyond Cancer presented by Bike World going 1 and 3. And then the local boy, Jaden Yeager, ends up fourth place for Restart Racing with Spencer Segabrush in fifth place for Canyon Esports. We'll see him back out there today. So really all the same names that we're used to seeing here in the Echelon Racing League at the top of the leaderboard yesterday, but Matt Usborne and Ben Thomas have been awesome watching these two guys battle. So here's the GC situation heading into this weekend, heading into the 4 days of racing at the Tour of America's Dairyland. Now, this one will be scored as an omnium, so we won't know the omnium points that they receive until all 4 days are done. But Thomas into this one with a 60-point lead over Matt Usborne, with Charlie Velez sitting in third, Bruce Bird in fourth, and Zach Nair in fifth. Frankie, again, these are names that really are at the top of this list because we see them racing week in and week out. I think there's going to be a lot of guys that'll be looking forward to maybe getting a little rest after a long season here in the Echelon Racing League.
They've been very active every single weekend, committing themselves towards, doing 2 days or 3 days. And if it's not on RGT platform, then it's on Zwift. And so a nice ride yesterday with Matt Usborne taking that win. He's going to take points out of that difference right there to be able to get a little bit closer to Ben Thomas, Charlie Velez. So if you think about it, if you put 3 months of work into trying to get ready for trying to win the overall series, you don't want these last important days on Tour of America's Dairyland. You don't want to mess these up. These are extremely important.
Yeah, just a couple more opportunities for these guys to pick up wins. I know a lot of riders on that list that you just saw have been hunting stage wins all season. A lot of them have been really close, but just haven't been able to get it quite right. Usborne, though, finally got his second win. He got his first one at the Redlands Bicycle Classic on the Sunset Loop Road Race yesterday. When you're hot, Frankie. Once you get that first win, you kind of break the seal. It's a lot easier to keep winning on a season. So Usborne, I think, coming into this weekend pretty confident, and he'll be even more confident after the performance yesterday.
Yeah, and when I interviewed him, he talked about how sprinting was the hardest part for him. But as you just said, Brad, I think the confidence he's going to get from being able to fight for position and having the power to be able to get up to the front really is going to go a long way from him. And we've seen how aggressive Matt Usborne is racing. So I can imagine he recovered from an injury, missed a race about 3 weeks ago, and right now he's firing on all cylinders. So he's got to have a big target on his back as a number one man to beat.
And it certainly seemed like he was in good spirits yesterday. Talked a lot about the Above and Beyond Cancer presented by Bike World team. It seems like that team is really clicking and gelling well. They figured out their system. They figured out the way to race things here. So Matt Usborne and Above and Beyond Cancer looking very, very good out there. All right, we are just about 3 minutes away from our race start. Let's talk a little bit about our race course.
Well, our Giro de Grafton, it's about 8/10 of a mile around for a lap. 6 corners. There's a little bit of not too bad, but we saw yesterday with a 9-corner course, it wreaked some havoc, and obviously you do not want to get gapped off on some of the turns. Long straightaway for the sprint finish, and so that's what's going to be key, is the fight leading up to the final turn, but also when you come out of there, I don't think you want to be first. You're going to have to be able to come off of a wheel, take advantage of some of that draft, but again, trying to conserve and having the lowest amount of power during the race, getting around the corner easily, that's going to be the key, who will be the eventual winner. And we saw that with Matt Usborne with his low watts per kilogram. Talked about a little bit over 8/10 of a mile around, not much elevation gain, 6 turns per lap, and pretty much 780 feet finish elevation. That's pretty much sea level, I would call it.
Let's take a lap around the course in our Pro 1-2 race from 2018. Now, this one is sped up, time and a half, so it's a little faster than the riders would get in real life, but you can see the wide corners here, the smooth road, but I think this course is really defined by that hill. The backside of the course has this uphill drag and then a long downhill run to the finish line after they make it around turn number 6. So there's plenty of space to move up here, Frankie. This is really just a test of legs in Grafton.
Yeah, big test of legs. And in 2019, the last time the race was at Tour of America's Dairyland, Philip Short won the men's race, and it was Peter Mullins, former Australian Criterium champion, that had won the women's race. But the uphill is going to be a test for legs. The speed is so fast on the downhill that you're going to have to keep pedaling to try to be able to keep up, and then obviously be able to manage your way around some of these turns. But coming out of the final turn, when you get around turn number 6, long way to the finish line. Don't want to be in the very, very front. You got to have to come off a wheel to be able to have that, to be able to go for that line and have victory.
Finishing stretch is always super exciting on the way down, and then it's back through the line, and then they do it about 49 more times after that. All right, let's go to our official starter for our welcome at the Giro de Grafton.
Hello, and welcome, racers and fans, to Village of Grafton. Next time you're here, please make sure you check out our locally owned shops, our commercial businesses, restaurants, bars and tasting rooms, local and county parks, and our great hotels. Grafton offers a thriving economy and warm hospitality. We are especially proud of our Paramount Blues recording history, as evidenced by our Paramount Plaza, located in the heart of our downtown and in the very center of the race course. We look forward to hosting the Giro of Grafton in our community again very soon. But until then, we hope you enjoy today's virtual racing. As always, stay safe, have fun, and we hope to see you very soon. Riders ready?
And let's go racing. Jim Brunquill kicking things off for our pro men as we get underway and rolling here. Now, Frankie, I'm thinking some guys might try some early attacks here. You see Charlie Ravel out of the saddle here early on. If you're not a good sprinter, if you watch Matt Usborne and Ben Thomas just dominate the guys at the finish yesterday, maybe they try and gang up on those 2 leaders. Certainly have 2 big targets on their backs.
Yeah, well-timed starting this race off as from the Giro de Grafton representative. And yeah, there's certain guys that are going to have a target on their back, but some guys, they lost out. They got gapped off very early on in the race. They don't want to make that mistake, so everybody's going to be out of the saddle, putting in full power to make sure that they're able to stay with the group. I mean, you make that mistake once, you're going to come into day number 2, you're not going to make the same mistake again. And so I think that's going to, for the first part of this race, make it a little bit quicker than usual as everybody flies around the race course. And, again, 35 laps are going to take us over to about an hour 15. So, once we get up to about a half hour end of 10, I think we'll start seeing some gaps starting to open up. But I don't see it really being staying together to be a field sprint the whole time. I believe we're going to have some pretty good attacks, and even I think some riders might get together and have some separation showing up once in a while during this race.
I would love to see a group that would be able to get away, work together, try and split the group up, and then maybe like 3 to 5 riders that can really figure out how to ride a concerted effort in a pace line. We haven't seen much of that on RGT. It's really tough to do, much more difficult, I think, in virtual racing than it is in real life. So you don't see it as much here on the virtual platforms as we do in real life. Certainly plenty of breaks in real life in Grafton. We see a lot of guys go away. That hill is a big part of it, big opportunity for riders to cause some splits. There's a lot of just general separation that happens in the group. This is Chris Rea off the front, taking a little look here for the Seasucker Gutenplan coaching team into the red zone early on. This might be a little early to be going red, Frankie.
It could be a little bit early, but again, he's not as familiar with the platform. So you're coming out of a corner, you're putting in big power to stay with the group. All of a sudden, you find yourself off the front, and so you're trying to be able to figure it out. Hey, Charlie Beek is back. He wasn't with us yesterday, so Charlie Beek, the young rider, he's had some good success here. So he's back, able to put in a good ride. Nice to be able to see that. Very early on in the race, though, and so, yeah, I think, if you're not familiar with the platform, you put out that power to stay with the group around the turn, and all of a sudden you find yourself edging off the front. So got to find a little bit of a balance. Eric Hill had a good ride yesterday, so he's starting to be able to set it. But what a team player that Eric Hill is for his Project Echelon riders, and really, a lot of times that's what his focus is on.
Yeah, I don't think I realized how much these guys are riding as a team. I mean, how much it is a team effort for these riders. Even Matt Usborne was talking about multiple riders helping him yesterday for the Above and Beyond Cancer Support presented by Bike World team. So, yeah, having some riders out there that can really be good team players and work for the squad is huge. And Project Echelon, one of the biggest squads out here on the virtual racing platform, so they know how to use the numbers, that's for sure. All right, one lap down here in the virtual Giro de Grafton. I want to go out to real life Grafton, where another one of the race directors of the Tour of America's Dairyland, Bill Koch, had a chance to catch up with our official starter.
Hi. Bill Koch back again here in Grafton, Wisconsin. Grafton holds a special place in our hearts as really the founding race of Tour of America's Dairyland. I'll let Jim Brunkwell tell you a little bit more about that, but Jim is the village president, the Grafton village president actually, and has been around for a long time. Started this event actually 2 years before Tour of America's Dairyland started. And so without further ado, I'm going to introduce Jim and fire right into the very first question, which is, Jim, what kind of energy is derived from having a bike race in the village of Grafton for the people that live here and for the community itself?
Well, that's a great question. I think that when we first started looking at a professional bike race, we tried to match it into where we were going with our branding at the time, which was Quality Life Grafton. And we think that, the natural, the event of bike riding and then evolving into a bike race was just something that would promote what we were trying to do in the community as a whole. So we never knew it was going to grow into something this big, but it was something that we believed in as a community, that it was a good fit for what we were trying to do for our community as a whole.
And you think you've attained that success? I mean, now we're 14 years into bike races in Grafton?
Yeah, I think so. I think the community has not only seen it as a positive event for themselves, but it's, as far as embracing what we're trying to do as a community and the brand, but it also is an event that showcases the downtown, which is again something that we've been working on since 1999. So again, it's a way for us to basically promote the brand and then also promote our downtown with a quality event.
Grafton, one of my favorite venues every year. There are a ton of good restaurants downtown, but my favorite, there's a Collectivo coffee within walking distance. So you can always go get a good coffee when you need it before the start of the race. I know the riders appreciate that as well. Want to remind our spectators watching today that they are running a fan Zoom over on the Tour of America's Dairyland Facebook page. They've got the link up there. They're going to be giving away some prize packs from Quick Trip and Subaru to spectators within the fan Zoom. That link is on the Tour of America's Dairyland Facebook page. So head on over and hang out with Alyssa in the Tour of America's Dairyland fan Zoom room for your chance to win some prize packs.
A little bit different here, Brad, having 4 riders kind of getting together. Exactly what you were talking about, wanting to see 4 guys kind of get into a team time trial mode and try to break away. And, you know, they're in the red. They're putting in the effort, 6.1, 6.5 watts per kilogram, forcing that field to chase. So this is one of those rare opportunities that seem to be coming pretty nicely right now. And Usborne, your winner from yesterday, has made it into this front group along with Swart and Hill. Gray, not as familiar with Gray. Going to have to find out a little bit more about him.
So that might be an advantage for these guys having a new name up here. They're certainly going to know Matt Usborne. They're going to know Eric Hill, and they're going to know Mike Swart as well. Swart has been a pretty aggressive rider in the races here as well. So Josh Gray, the new addition here for Team Tour 2000, presented by Callis. That, of course, is the team of Ben Thomas. So an interesting scenario here where they've got Usborne in second place overall. I don't want to say isolated in this group, but it's not Thomas that went with him. They sent the teammate up the road for Team Tour 2000. Look at the field. Red across the board. These guys definitely not interested in letting this group go. Only about 8 minutes into this one today. This one's playing out a lot different than yesterday, though, Frankie. It was a little more chill, I think, at the start yesterday. It was just kind of 1s and 2s going off. But I think we saw it more in the women's race where the riders were really spending a lot of time in the red zone early on as opposed to just turning the laps and then, sprinting it out for the last couple. So the game here is really about just keeping the pace as high as they can, I think.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting as you talked about how the teammates are helping some of their other team members. And yet we really don't notice it. When we're watching it, you don't really see how involved and what a difference some of the teammates are making. But repeatedly, every time we talk to some of the winners, they have talked about how important and how much help they have gotten from some of their teammates in setting up for the sprint or going to the front and chasing things down. And so I think there's a lot of stuff that happens behind the scenes, also probably within their inner team communication on Discord. A lot of things that happen that we don't really see by just watching the virtual screen, which makes it a little bit more dynamic and more interesting and a little bit more tactical than you can kind of tell from watching the virtual race.
Yeah, it's one of the fun parts. A little bit of real life mix in there to kind of see where these guys are riding from. Frankie, I want to show some pictures of some of our favorite paint and caves, some submissions that we had from some riders. I love the various setups out there. This is Matt Main. He's got a soigneur next to him. This is a pretty cool setup to have the kid riding next to you. Charlie Rebel has
just
maybe
real
the
quick,
most
Brad.
high-tech.
That was his son Liam.
There we go. So that's Liam Main with Matt Main on the trainer. Charlie Rebel with his high-tech setup here down in the basement over in the UK. He's got a couple camera angles that he sends us. We see like a side view and a top view and a front view, but this is what Charlie Rebel's view is. You can see a lot of screens on this one, Frankie. This is Kevin Bouchard Hall. We saw a win from him here in the Echelon Racing League. Boy, that's got to be nice to have some fresh air right next to you. I think that window probably making a lot of riders envious. We see a lot of riders with the fans. This is Jackie Godby's setup. This is a view that you're going to see a lot in our women's race coverage after this. You saw it a lot yesterday because, well, we see a lot of Jackie Godby sitting on the front. Look at all the towels and all the bikes. We talked about how she covered up her brakes. I think that might be the green towel hanging on her handlebar. I think they cover those up to prevent the salt. And then look at this. This is Eric Hill's kids. How's that for some style? These are some future Project Echelon riders.
I love
Checking
the glasses.
out RGT. Safety first, man. You got to have good glasses. And then Zach Nair, another Project Echelon rider. He's got this rocker board. See the Ceres rocker on the bottom? It allows the bike to move side to side a little bit, kind of like those Indo boards. So it's a little more realistic feel. It's an interesting setup. Seeing a lot more technology coming into these pain caves and into the trainers. Although I think we're going to see a lot more people riding with sunglasses inside. I think that's gonna stick around.
That was pretty funny. The sunglasses inside. Yeah, that was good. That rocker board though is very interesting, as you had talked about. You know, it tries to mimic your naturalized riding position of when you're out of the saddle. You know, kind of going back and forth and forth. So it takes a little bit of getting used to. You know, it doesn't throw you off, but you're used to. You know, you're thinking turbo trainer. You're locked in. Nothing moves, and all something that's moving around. So it does take a little bit of getting used to, but actually what's really good also for helping to strengthen a lot of those lateral muscles, those tendons, those ligaments, things that you aren't really using when everything is so stationary and locked in. This free movement helps with your core, your back, your stomach. So it's actually a little bit more beneficial to replicate once you get outside and having the strength needed to be able to put in that power that's needed to be able to go fast outside.
Yeah, I was going to say that's probably going to be a big difference when the guys get out onto into real life racing. When you get out on the road, all those little core stabilizer muscles that you were talking about, I think there'll be a lot of riders out there this spring that didn't work on the core as much as maybe they should have over the winter. So it'll be interesting to watch when we get back to racing here. Meanwhile, Bowen taking a look off the front, going solo here. As Ned Bowen for the Cardiac Athletes team has a little look. I think Ned cracked the top 10 yesterday. I know I saw a Cardiac Athletes rider up there. But we'll see if Bowen can get anything started here. I think these are lapped riders with him. Maybe not. I think Campbell Parrish is good right there. The Canadian rider for Above and Beyond Cancer, presented by Bike World. And then, yeah, the other one is a lapped rider. So we'll call this two guys away off the front here. Parrish and Bowen doing a nice job working together.
Parrish with Above and Beyond Cancer is only 16 years old. He's a youngin'. And so he's in here battling it out with a lot of the other riders, which is great to be able to see.
Good chance to get some experience, get some mentorship. Although the 16-year-old might be teaching the older riders how to race virtually. Usually the kids have a little better handle on the technology. Looks like these guys are going to go back into the group as they roll back under the line.
It's a nice, solid group. You know, everybody, not as many guys got caught out in those first, few corners, the first few laps of the bike race, which is similar to in real life. You know, you get the start of the criterium, everybody goes off the gun, it's very fast, but we have a nice sized group right here, and so we're going to see a lot of attacking leading in towards the next few miles, kilometers.
Check it out, Alyssa Weber over on YouTube saying, let's get it. Hey, racing fans, Alyssa Weber here from Tour of America's Dairyland. First to comment, ensuring our riders are going to get a prize package from Subaru. That's over on, looks like the YouTube page. So go see Alyssa over there. And again, you can join the fan Zoom as well to pick up some prizes. They got all kinds of cool stuff from Quick Trip and Subaru here at the Tour of America's Dairyland.
You know how we talked about with a lot of the riders how many of them have been former runners, and if you're a former runner, generally you have that aerobic engine able to do really well. Mike Lister, who was just on the front there, and in doing my research of looking up some other ones, it's amazing how many former rowers, people that do crew or do rowing, also have turned over to cycling for their fitness and are very successful, because rowing is a huge aerobic sport. And so it's kind of the same thing with the legs pushing off to be able to do the rowing, that aerobic engine coming in. So Lister, one of those former rowers that is in our virtual race today.
And perfect for virtual racing because there's not a lot of steering involved either. You don't have to worry too much about the bike handling. You know how those rowers are. These guys bunching up really nicely up at the front. There's some riders in here getting a real nice ride right now. If you can figure out how the physics on this game works and you're really able to sit in, you can save some pretty significant amounts of energy. We always talk about, Frankie, the average watts per kilogram at the end of the race, what the guys did. And time after time, the rider that wins the race is showing a lower watts per kilo than the other riders. You would think that the rider that wins puts out the most power, but it's a lot of times the most efficient rider that ends up winning. Some cheers for Mike Lister over on YouTube as well. And Mike Lister for the win.
Yeah, and on the left-hand side of your screen, you can see the guys sitting, if you look at the, let's say 12 to 25, the riders that are in this first group, you'll see their numbers go down. They'll be sitting right at about 3 watts per kilogram, whereas the riders on the front are going to be at 4 and 5. So you really can tell, like Usborne right now, 3.3. You see some of them dipping down into 2.8. Bruce Bird, 1.7, taking advantage of that draft, just like Brad had said. And so that's going to be key, is being very efficient, trying to be able to save as much energy as possible, because later on, the speed's going to continue to pick up. Right now, almost going 50 kilometers an hour. Where are you going to go? You can't go off the front when you're going 30 miles an hour. So there's nothing you can do but just sit in and try to conserve your energy right now.
It looks like the Mike Lister cheers just won Mr. or Mrs. Inesta a Subaru prize pack. So congratulations. Maybe you can share that with Mike Lister, since he was kind of part of the win. So I think that's Noah. So Noah, if you're listening, get your information over to Alyssa so we can get the prize packs out. Very cool. Toad Team does such an awesome job with their entire squad, but just making it a good experience for riders and spectators. There's a lot of swag that goes out at the Tour of America's Dairyland. It's always fun for the kids or anyone coming into town. So nice when they get a chance to pick up some additional swag out there, and you can do it today. So big thank you to Alyssa. Big shout out for working hard today. Frankie, I saw USA Cycling announce their PRT schedule earlier this week. Sounds like we might be getting back to some real-life racing here pretty soon.
I didn't see that. Was it different than what they had put out before? Like they made some adjustments, I'm assuming, I guess.
Yeah, just some adjusted dates, some early season races that missed their dates slotting in. So it sounds like we're going to be moving a lot of dates around, but there's some cautious optimism out there that we're going to be racing here in the next couple months.
Well, I would say the most prepared would be a lot of these riders that have done the Echelon Racing Series. It's been, incredible. I mean, in interviewing a lot of the riders talking about like their biggest improvement, many of them is the power. They talk about their power increasing, their FTP power and max power increasing compared to what they have done in years past, and also the explosiveness, because it's not steady. And so a lot of the riders have really talked about how they're able to be a little bit more explosive, has switch muscle fine, keeping it active, and that's been better for them. Instead of, normally in the wintertime you go out and ride, you're riding at 20 miles an hour for 3 hours, for 4 hours. This is kind of mixing it up a little bit better to get them a little bit for when the racing does start. So I haven't heard anything negative about virtual racing from any of the riders that I've interviewed. Every one of them has had positive things to say about it and has really shown improvements in their fitness.
I think a lot of opinions changed this year too. There were a lot of very hesitant riders to get onto these virtual platforms. I'll admit I was hesitant to even watch them or commentate, but it's really been adopted well among the community, and it's been fun. It really has. It's been an enjoyable experience, and I think the riders are starting to figure out how to make it enjoyable for them, right? How to race and ride and train in a way that's enjoyable for you, that's not too torturous on the trainer and in the pain cave. Some people just have a really hard time enjoying riding on the trainer. I am one of them. I cannot get into the vibe of the trainer, but these virtual platforms certainly make it a little easier. At least tap out an hour. An hour before would have been really tough for me to do on the trainer, but RGT, Zwift, any of those, makes an hour go by a little easier. 2, 3, 4 hours, that gets pretty tough on the virtual trainers, or virtual platforms. But I think an hour is like the sweet spot there. I don't know. There's many people doing 4-hour rides, but they're out there. On Saturday, I'm going to be joining Toronto Hustle doing a 24-hour Zwift ride. It's called the Crush COVID. They did it last year, and they're doing it again this year, where they're riding for 24 hours straight on the trainer. So I'm going to be checking in with them on tomorrow evening, Saturday evening. I think they actually start this evening, and they'll finish up on Saturday evening. Yeah, 24
that sounds
hours
just insane.
in the saddle.
Wasn't it Ed? I don't know if it was Ed Veal or one of the guys from Toronto Hustle. Maybe it was Ed Veal who had set the 24-hour record on the turbo trainer. But I can't remember exactly. But I agree with you about doing Zwift has been a game changer for me, especially being here in Detroit with all the snow and the cold. I've enjoyed it. I've loved it. I've very much enjoyed it. And you're right, it has been a little bit of a perception change.
Watching Melville take a little look off the front here. Saw him pretty aggressive yesterday. Hasn't really found the results at the end quite yet, but not afraid to make some attacks.
He took a flyer yesterday, went off early, trying to be able to catch everybody by surprise, and just wore down when we got into those final, 300 meters to the line. But he's up there. We've seen him in many races, and he constantly is staying up there. Ben Thomas, mountain biker, has Ben Thomas coaching, and he's been, arguably he's been the most consistent. He is every day, every time there's a bike race, he has been up there. He's got a slew of results, and so it's been fun watching him race, and he doesn't seem to be wearing down. He actually seems to be able to adapt and continue to get stronger and stronger. But he has a couple wins, he has a couple second places, thirds. One of his best results was second at Dirty River. And that was a tough, long. That was like an hour and 45, that stage, as we see Blodgett now in the red attacking. A big attack here also. Parrish, the 16-year-old, able to stay on his wheel.
Parrish definitely had a plan today. I think he is the man to mark the moves for Above and Beyond Cancer. Got to think he's working for Matt Usborne today after the ride that Usborne had yesterday. So nice job there. Covering the break. And that's going to shut it down and bring it back together. Now Segebrug's going to have to go at it.
I was going to say, that's not easy to do, to cover a break when someone's going at 9 watts per kilogram. That's tough. So all the credit to Parrish being able to cover that. Now Segebrug, also another strong rider, but we're seeing kind of a little bit more aggressiveness, I think, today than we saw yesterday. Janesville, with all the corners, it was, a lot of the riders were just kind of following each other. Today, a little bit more aggressive. It's a kind of attack, counterattack, as everybody kind of keeps trying to take advantage of one another.
This is Segebrug here for the Canyon Esports team. Although it doesn't look like he's going to be able to take anybody with him, and he'll come back into the fold.
Segebrug normally races for Big Shark out of Missouri, 29-year-old. He's a financial advisor, and that's another part that I found from talking to a lot of riders, that it's much, much easier being able to balance the virtual world with their work schedules, with the family schedules. Very quick to be able to hop onto the trainer and hop off, work all day. It just fits in. They don't have to worry about daylight. They don't have to worry about how cold it is. And so that's been a common theme also on why this platform, like RGT platform, is taken off and becoming so popular. And so it's fun watching all these guys get fitter and fitter and are doing the racing. And that's what's kind of, for me, the most impressive has been the numbers. It's unbelievable, the power numbers and the watts that these guys can put out. And so that's been fun to watch.
Yeah, some of these numbers have just been exceptional. Jackie Godby, the numbers that she's putting out are current hour record level numbers. And it sounds like she might be considering taking a run at that, because her coach, Chris Navin, was saying that he thinks that the numbers are there. The wattage is there to ride like an hour record type ride. So it'd be really interesting to see Jackie Godby try and conquer that. I don't know if she ever would have tried the hour record if it weren't for, virtual racing or the chance to kind of see what she's capable of in that hour power, where it's a little different when you're, training for a triathlon, which is what she was doing up until she started virtual racing here.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's nice that some of these, it's nice that she's had a chance to be exposed these other events, and it's going to open doors for her. I can't wait to be able to see her come to a real race in a time trial. It doesn't even have to be a criterium or a road race. This woman in a time trial, I think is unbeatable, you know, and I would love to be able to put her on the right up against Chloe Dygert, right up against anybody else. Stick her in the national championships and let's see what you got. And I think she'll do very well.
Yeah, absolutely. The numbers are there. The talent is there. The mental fortitude is there. Her ability to suffer. So, yeah, Jackie Godby, I think, would be a very interesting rider to watch. Although I know her schedule is going to be pretty tough. She's got her placement coming up as she finishes up her PhD in radiology. She's getting married. So they're going to be working on their residency here pretty soon. So there might be a move in her future. But I'm sure she'll still find some time to train and race. She's incredibly motivated. Really, really impressive rider. All right, these guys still all together here as we're about 27 minutes into our race today. These guys with 26 kilometers of racing to go. I want to go back to Janesville where we had a chance to send Todd Bastide, the live announcer of the Tour of America's Dairyland, out on course to check in with some of the cool parts of this Grafton course.
We're on course here at the Giro de Grafton, part of the Tour of America's Dairyland. We're inside turn number 3, and if you look over my shoulder, you see a fire station. Now, if you're doing the math in your head, you're thinking, wait, inside the course is a fire station, racing going all day. There could be a problem with that. In fact, there could be. Except the Grafton Fire Department solved that problem for us. You see, we do race in front of the fire station, but they came up with the solution of staging outside the course. Every year, they have graciously agreed to put the trucks, the ambulances, everything they need to respond and serve this community, as they do so well 365 days a year, outside the course. So when the phone rings, Miss McGillicuddy's cat is caught in a tree, boom, they are there in a flash. Meantime, they open up the fire station. Kids can go in, take tours, see the pole, you slide down, all that. So they jump into the community fun during race day here in Grafton. We're tipping the cap to the Grafton Fire Department for coming up with this unique solution as they continue to serve this community. And, of course, during this period of time, we are thanking all first responders who have done such a phenomenal job for all of us all across this country. We're on course here at the Giro de Grafton, part of the Tour of America's Dairyland. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Todd. You got to have some pretty serious pull in a town to kick the fire department out of the firehouse, but they are more than willing to help out the Giro de Grafton. It's actually pretty cool. They stage in this big parking lot just outside the course, and they're like all ready to go. So you see all the fire trucks lined up, all the ambulances. They pretty much move the entire operation across the street so that they're outside the course and they can respond.
And that'd be pretty cool for the community or for kids, you know, to be able to see all those trucks and lights and everything all lined up. So, but yeah, somebody has some pull exactly to kick the fire trucks out of the firehouse. So, you know, and it's common though, right? Isn't it, Brad? With many of the cities of the Tour of America's Dairyland, I mean, as excited as the riders are to go to these cities to bike race, they're especially pumped to be able to bring in Toad and have the races, and so that's always fun to be able to have like open arms invitation and see that excitement at many of the cities that we go to with Tour of America's Dairyland. It's fun.
Yeah, it makes the riders feel like rock stars, that's for sure. When they roll into town, the red carpet's rolled out, people are excited to see the race, excited to see the riders. Makes them feel like they hit the big time. Here's Timmy Bauer in his pain cave. So he's got the bike route sign, some lights going. I think he also has all his numbers pinned up over to his right side. Everyone kind of carved out their pain caves where they could, found the free space that they had available during the last year or so. Some riders, it was outside. Some riders had an extra room. Some riders in the basement. Not sure where Timmy is here.
Somebody was just doing a big attack, but they brought him back quick. You know what? And it's those light blue jerseys of Project Echelon. One rider just did a huge attack. Now they got counterattack. Now it's coming back over the top again with another rider. So you talk about that team tactics and team strategy. That is exactly what's taking place right now. And, you know, Project Echelon has 4 riders in the race, and this is Heinlein. So John Heinlein, the 31-year-old racing for Project Echelon, he's on the attack right now trying to be able to split this up. And maybe they need to do that. Project Echelon has 4 riders in the race. Above and Beyond has 6 riders in the race. Team Tour has 5 riders in the race. Obviously with Team Tour 2000, it's Ben Thomas's team, so they're gonna be controlling things and trying to not let things get too many guys go up the road, because Thomas wants to be able to make sure to get some points today. Matt Usborne gained some ground on Ben Thomas, and so Thomas doesn't want to allow the same thing to happen 2 days in a row.
Looks like Croxton going to set tempo to reel Heinlein back in here. And you see there's always an Above and Beyond Cancer jersey there, ready to go, ready to cover it. Here goes what I think is Restart Racing up the left side. Maybe this is Blodgett having a go at it.
Well, definitely in the red, trying to see those numbers right there. Looks right around 8 or 9 watts per kilogram. So this is a more aggressive race, Brad. I mean, definitely a more aggressive race than what we saw yesterday. A lot of different attacks right now.
Look at this group of 3. Eric Hill and Timmy Bauer joining in with Blodgett here. And there's David Blodgett right there, the man who started this break of 3. Now, the hardest part of this is sustaining the effort, sustaining the ride to get away. It's easy to do it for a minute. It's easy to do it for 2 minutes. But to really get a split on RGT, you got to go for like 5 or 6 minutes to get away, because the field is just so good at being able to chase. See, Timmy Bauer knows it. That's what he's doing right here. See how he steps on the gas. He's going into the red zone. Even though these guys already got the gap, Bauer knows that he's got to get a big gap here if they're going to hold it for a while. So looks like Bauer, Blodgett, and Hill are all on the same page here. This is a good looking move of 3. I like this.
Yeah, it's a big gap, the biggest gap we've seen, and a lot of the other races that we've watched, very, very rare do we see a breakaway establish itself or try to get away. Sometimes we might see one rider being able to take a flyer, but we're going to see if this one can actually make it stick. But yeah, I would say Timmy Bauer and Blodgett and Hill, they're pretty committed to this, and so right now it's looking really good as they're trying to keep a gap. One other rider starting to be able to come across, Charlie Velez. Of course, he doesn't want to get left out.
Ooh, looks like Velez is going to make it across here for the Hugh
And that's a
Dog
teammate
Racing
of Eric
team.
Hill. Sorry, teammate Hill. So Eric Hill now should be able to go on the front. You can see Eric Hill immediately going into the red, trying to be able to push the pace as he now sees Velez, but everybody reacting to that as it's all been brought back together. Another counterattack. Look at it. The green jerseys are just going ballistic right now.
Oh, man, look at this. Hill, Bauer getting caught out. This is a great counterattack by Mike Swart up here on the front. This guy knows exactly what he's doing. This is absolutely a counterattack from Swart. Really smart riding here.
So above and beyond racing, trying to control things, trying to be able to stay on the front and control things, where it seems like Project Echelon, opposite mindset, trying to destroy things and blow things up. Same with the riders from Restart Racing. Nice shot of Mike Swart there, who was just going in the red, trying to be able to break this apart. So very aggressive racing taking place right now. It's fun watching this.
Look how focused Swart is on the screen. We always talk about this, how the riders are watching the screen like a hawk. They're trying to, 1, time the attack just right, and 2, make sure that they don't miss any moves that go or miss any moves that go away. So Swart trying to make sure that, for example, when that break came back, he was ready to sit at the front, lift the tempo again, and try to get these guys away. Let's see who's away now. This is Campbell Parrish, again, Above and Beyond Cancer, presented by Bike World, going to go, this time with Parrish.
Looks like he's holding about a 20-meter gap on some of the other riders, but when you get that surge, when you get that pack, it gains so much momentum, able to shut down a gap extremely quick. Just under 20 kilometers left in racing, and it seems like all these riders have had no problem figuring out the 6 corners of Giro de Grafton. This 35 laps going to fly by right now, coming up on 35 minutes of racing, and again, Lister on the front. Lister was one of the riders racing on the Gran Fondo National Series, also on the RGT platform. He did about 4 or 5 of those Gran Fondos. has done, I think this is his third race that he's done with the Echelon Racing Series. So I'm glad he's been able to come out for Tour of America's Dairyland. Is still have a pretty good group, and I like it. The bigger the group, it seems like the more active it is. And we talked about seeing guys being able to sit in, right? Staying rested, saving their legs. I think that's why we're seeing a little bit more aggressive racing, because it's a little bit easier course to be able to sit in than what we saw yesterday.
All right, well, group coming back together here at 36 minutes in. Looks like they're taking it a little easier right now. A lot of greens and blues across the field. So let's take a short break here. We'll keep an eye on these guys and have more live racing for the pro men when we come back.
Milk, yeah, guzzle milk, drink it all, make a milk waterfall, cookie milk, stack it tall, milk with no rhythm at all, make you run fast milk, stay awake in class milk, pour it by the glass milk, is that a mustache milk? Boom, 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 bass milk, smile in your face milk, go for the goal before you know you going all the way milk, milky high, milky hay, I hope you have a milky day, live your best life milk, you out this world, Milky Way, put you on the spot milk, question, got milk? Show us what you got, hashtag got milk.
Ready to step into summer? Like really soak it all in. Set your sights on a breathtaking view. Explore a fresh coast right outside your door. Be awed by the awe-inspiring. Or savor a meal in the very place it was grown. Well, isn't it time you experienced the wonders of Wisconsin?
How are you feeling today? This question has taken on a whole new meaning lately. Now, more than ever, it's important to reach out to your family, friends, neighbors, and coworkers and ask about their health. Studies have shown that 70% of people have delayed getting health care or know someone who has. Someone you care about might be doing the same thing. Your simple, thoughtful question could start a conversation to help them get the care they need. At Ascension, Wisconsin, appointments are available now. We have strict safety precautions in place for your safety in our care. ERs at our hospitals are open 24/7, and ask about virtual visits. As always, we are here for you when you need us. So, how are you feeling today? Make sure you get the care you need at getascensionwisconsincare.com.
The people of Milwaukee are something. Making something new, something special, making change. Yes, this is Milwaukee, where alleyways turn to art galleries and MVPs are more valuable off the court. A place powered by the people, making their city a bona fide worldwide phenomenon. So come and feel a little bit of that people power for yourself.
Farming is more than just a job because it demands so much of you. Every day I'm with the people that I care about the most. We accomplish or we fail together.
Support Wisconsin dairy farmers. Buy Wisconsin cheese and dairy.
Winners here at the Virtual Tour of America's Dairyland going to get a chance to try some of that Wisconsin cheese. They'll be mailing out cheese prize packs of Wisconsin cheese to our winners. I don't think they're going to be able to ship the full 25-pound wheel of cheese that our overall winners get every year at the Tour of America's Dairyland, but our winners this weekend, or this week, I should say, are going to be getting a little sampling of some Wisconsin cheese. So Matt Usborne's got some cheese headed his way. I hope we can ship cheese across the border. I don't know if you can ship cheese into Canada. They get pretty stickly with that stuff.
Yeah, they get a little stickly with agricultural, probably. Border's still here. Obviously, if I'm in Detroit, the border's 10 minutes away, right across the bridge or the tunnel, and border's still closed. Nobody's allowed to be able to go over for non-essential travel. So eventually when that opens up, and maybe when that opens up, send me the cheese. I'll drive it over to them.
I was going to say, we'll have you can slingshot it over the border. We'll have you be the cheese mule. You know, you can dig a little tunnel. There's a lot of ways to get cheese into Canada.
Just throw it right over the river. There you go. So Melville and Ravel now off the front. And again, more aggressive racing than we've seen in any of our other criteria. I just saw a minute ago, I was surprised, Timmy Bauer was riding on the front at 5 watts, and somehow he's still in the yellow. I don't even know how that's possible. Charlie Ravel right now on the front, 4.3, sitting in the blue. So Melville, very aggressive rider yesterday in the race. Charlie now doing a good job of kind of following those moves. Ravel's had about 5 top 5 places in our Echelon Racing League series. And if you want to speak of a race that really fits him, at 6'1" and 185 pounds, it's the Criterium.
Yep. Yeah, perfect cut for a crit racer. He's been awesome in support of his Team Tour 2000 teammates. I know Ben Thomas, winning is a big goal of his. He really wants to make sure he supports the teammates out there, but still finds results for himself. Revel has been really impressive. And there he is back to the front again. Chris Navin with him from the XXX Racing team. I guess a semi-local team to the Tour of America's Dairyland. XXX Racing based out of Chicago. And most of the Tour of America's Dairyland happening around Milwaukee. I guess it's about an hour and a half, maybe 2-hour drive in between the two cities.
And you were talking, Brad, about Chris Navin being the coach of Jackie Godby, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, and so, I mean, talk about a gentleman with a ton of experience. He's a triad coach, but also he's completed over 18 Ironmans. And so a ton of experience behind him. And so really Jackie found, right? The rainbow ended right Navin's door, and Jackie managed to find that. So good for her.
Yeah, having a good coach behind you that can, one, push you, and two, offer the guidance that you need in order to pull off the rides that Jackie Godby has been able to do. Chris Navin, we knew he talked the talk, but now he's walking the walk off the front here as Navin goes solo trying to pull a Jackie Godby here for XXX Racing as he gets away all by himself here. See if he gets any help into the red zone.
One thing to watch out for is we've seen the different attacks, right? We've seen Eric Hill, we've seen Charlie Ravel, we've seen Timmy Powell, and the same guys having to chase everything down. So with team tactics and strategy, I would say there definitely has been some assignments made to certain riders for the first part of this race compared to the latter part of the race. And so some of these guys we've seen really having to cover these moves. We have a great shot right there of Navin trying to be able to go up the road, 5 watts per kilogram, but he is now just brought back in. The dangerous part now, he has to keep going, right? You don't want to get shot right out the back as they come by you at 30 miles an hour. So this is what Chris Navin's having to do right now.
Yeah, hang in there because the pendulum swings the other way too. When you're off the front, you come back in. But Chris did a nice job to hold on to those wheels. He's even going to get back up here to the front. So a bit of antagonist being played here by Chris Navin early on. All right, I want to bring back our in-real-life race director, Tom Schuler. We talked to Tom a little bit at the top of the show before the start. Tom is down in his pain cave watching from the races here today. Tom, we were talking about Grafton, the course that they have cut out there, and the fire department moving outside of the course. Do you have any pull with the police? I got some parking tickets I need handled.
Yeah, there's quite a party on corner 2. They might have better luck even than the police. It's a rockin' backside there. A lot of parties. Like I said, it's a block party with a bike race.
Yeah, the other thing about Grafton, a ton of food, a ton of vendors. They have street vendors, food vendors. There's kids' bike areas, all kinds of stuff going on in downtown Grafton. It's not just a bike race when we roll into Grafton, is it? There's a lot going on. I think the bar across the street is called Magellan's, if I remember correctly. You're going to have to jog my memory on that. Things get a little hazy when you're around Magellan's.
Yeah, it is Wisconsin, so the home stretch has many, many taverns, and there's also a big, real vibrant music scene that coincides with the bike race. They have a plaza in corner one with a concert that starts as the race is finishing up. So again, it's a Saturday night. It's our first Saturday of the 11 days, and it's a big party. It's a big party. It's a lot of fun.
That's what it's
really
about, and some pretty intense racing as well. I know we've had some pretty legendary names across the finish line in Grafton's, and I think some of the best sprints, some of the best finishes in the history of the Tour of America's Dairyland have happened right there on the line.
Yeah, I can remember, in particular, Rasan Bahati, where he wasn't even in view one year coming out of that last corner, and he just weaved his way through the lead outs and ended up winning, and that was an impressive finish. That had to be in our early days, but yeah, that finishing straight 400 meters, big wide road, it's really fun to watch. I'm always up on the stage with you guys biting my fingernails for sure.
Always an exciting finish. Tom, thank you very much. Redheads is the name of the bar across the street. I'm going to take you there for a beer next year, Tom.
I knew you would remember. Right? I knew I could count on you.
I think I called him a Jones. It was actually Todd Bastide that texted me and reminded me that it's Redheads. So, yeah, credit to Todd there. He's got the sharp memory. I spend too much time in Redheads. That's why I don't remember.
I'm looking forward to the finish. This is coming down nicely here. It's going to be an exciting finish.
Getting down to it. Thank you, Tom. Looks like we got a little bit of separation off the front here, Frankie. 2 new names with Gray and Breen. Taking a little look here. Maybe a little late to be trying to get away. We're at 10.5 kilometers to go. I would think that the field's going to be pretty on edge here.
Well, maybe might have a chance to be able to hold it. Breen has had a good ride. He was second at the Indy Criterium, so that was a little bit of a surprise. The Norwegian racing for Above and Beyond Cancer, but again, it's about having those right teammates in the front. Above and Beyond Cancer controlling things as Breen was going up the road. Breen's out of a young junior rider, in 17th at Junior Paris-Roubaix. And he was actually in the group sprinting for 4th place at the Junior Paris-Roubaix in 2019. So a strong young rider on that Above and Beyond Cancer team.
And no surprise to see another Above and Beyond Cancer jersey getting away. Here goes Campbell Parrish again. Man, these guys are ripping it out there today. Above and Beyond Cancer is on fire this weekend. Doing a great job. It worked out yesterday for Matt Usborne, and I'll tell you, if Usborne does it today, he will owe a lot to these guys that have been attacking pretty much lap in and lap out. I think every move of the day, we've seen one of these white and green jerseys from Above and Beyond Cancer presented by Bike World in there. Campbell Parrish, the latest to get off the front here.
And maybe one thing that we're not really seeing or not having of a view of is all of this chasing going on. I mean, is that being done by Ben Thomas's team, Team Tour 2000? So the tactics, excellent by Above and Beyond Cancer right now, and perhaps that's affecting Team Tour 2000, which is going to hurt them a little bit later on. We'll have to see how that plays out, but Usborne has big power, big strength. He shows he can sprint. He's got a good timing. Ben Thomas, I would say even, really. I don't think one has an advantage over the other, and so this is shaping up to be good in the final 9 kilometers. As Melville now again on the front. Melville's been very aggressive yesterday and today, and he's just kind of doing his own thing out there, trying to see if anybody will be able to go away with him to be able to have some help as Usborne goes right over the top.
A bold move here from Usborne. I thought he would maybe hang in because the Above and Beyond Cancer guys had been attacking so much earlier in the day. It looked like maybe they were just trying to soften things up for Matt Usborne to try to have a sprint at it again today, but Usborne lifting the tempo a little bit. That's him up there in the top left corner of the 4 box in the bottom right of your picture, along with Kevin Bouchard-Hall, Charlie Velez, and Bruce Bird. Looks like these guys back together. Now, we see them come back together at the front, Frankie, but a lot of times that means that there's some action at the back, just kind of dropping one or two guys. Every time they launch one of these attacks, every time you see the group go into the red zone for 10, 15, 20 seconds, there's going to be some riders that won't come back from that at the back.
That's a danger. As the speed picks up, as guys start attacking, your legs are starting to fatigue, right? You can't jump out of a corner at 400 watts. 55 times. After you do it 40 times, you're going to start getting a little bit weaker. And so going to see guys starting to slip off the back and not seeing as large a group as we have seen at the start of this race. But right now, Restart Racing, Project Echelon, Above and Beyond, Team Tour 2000, very, very aggressive racing. Good, nice to be able to see some of the Gutenplan Safe Sport riders in there too, in those bright green neon jerseys.
Yeah, we saw a couple of their guys up at the front early on. And that's them just on the left-hand side of the group. But I think this Above and Beyond Cancer jersey has been the most omnipresent on the front so far today. Jersey of Matt Usborne. You see Breen here on the outside, always keeps a teammate with him. This guy's maybe the most well-oiled machine out there on RGT, at least here in the Echelon Racing League, or at least today. Yesterday as well, it paid off for Matt Usborne. So he's my pick for today. I think Usborne has a real shot at doubling up, although Ben Thomas certainly going to be one to watch out there. Thomas maybe adjusts his sprint a little bit, tries to adjust the timing a little bit, and might have a chance of getting another win on his Echelon Racing League resume here.
Pretty late now, still noticing. I'm not seeing Zach Nair. I'm not seeing his name in this group. He was racing yesterday, but I might just be missing him because the name's not popping up. But some strong riders here. 6.9 kilometers to go. And Above and Beyond Racing definitely has been very, very aggressive so far, as we see Lister now coming up to the front along with Bryn.
I want to bring Todd Bastide back in, who saved my bacon with the Redheads reference. Todd, there's just too many bars and taverns at the finish line of these bike races in Wisconsin. I just can't keep track, but it's Redheads in Grafton, Magellan's is in Waukesha.
And you should know that because Redheads is the closest establishment ever to the start-finish line. And all throughout the day at Racing in Grafton, they pop out, they throw preems. They're cooking hamburgers from like 8:30, and the odor is just wafting right across the start-finish line, and they're drawing us in. So, yeah, Redheads, a lot of fun there on the Grafton course.
And they know how to have fun over in Redheads as well. They kind of stumble in and out of the race, let's say, give some cheers to the riders, and then back inside to have a few more drinks, and then back out to watch the finish. But these guys are wishing they could have a couple cold beers right now because they're feeling this effort. Frankie, even after one day of criterium racing, you really feel an hour-long effort the next day. I know you've been racing on RGT some. You've been doing some of the fondos, but you did some of the shorter hour-long criteriums. I mean, it's a serious sprint effort. You really feel it afterwards. You need a beer from Redheads after a race like this.
Oh, you would definitely have a couple from Redheads. Absolutely. It's intense. It's different than on the road. There's no coasting. You're not able to sit in. You're not like spinning, sitting behind, being able to save your power. It's all explosive power. And so, an hour on a virtual platform is probably like 2 or 3 hours outside. And it's just so intense. It's like a cyclocross race. You're getting into this and it's going to be an hour 15 and you're just kind of going flat out the whole time. And so recovery is important, and a beer would definitely help that.
These guys just 5 laps away. Go ahead, Todd.
Yeah, I'm having a tough time telling the difference between virtual and real here. These because Grafton is where the teams come out and duke it out, and we're watching Above and Beyond and Project Echelon, just a Donnybrook going on here. Every move getting covered. This is fantastic racing, and yeah, I mean, we love seeing this kind of stuff IRL, but here it is going on virtual, and the team was talking. Both of those teams were talking to each other before this one cranked up.
Yeah, Todd, Grafton in real life is, like you said, it's really a race for the teams. I mean, if you don't have a squad that can set up a good train on that last lap, keep that pace high, it's just it's such a long finishing stretch as well. If you don't have a wheel to hide behind, you're going to have a real hard time winning the sprint on the real life Grafton course. So it's almost always the guys that have a good lead out rider, at least one rider that can take them out of the last turn in real life in Grafton, that usually end up winning, or the riders that can steal a wheel, that can surf the wheel better.
Right, and of course, we heard the plow, Tom Schuler, mention Rahsaan Bahati, and it's one of those things where you want to see if he's doing magic tricks for kids when he's not riding the bike, because he just appears out of nowhere. With Grafton coming up Wisconsin Boulevard, we've got tents on the left and on the right, medicals down there, some of the team tents, some new development going up, beautiful condominiums there. So there's always kind of places to hide right along the edge of the course, and Bahati just made an art out of hopping out of nowhere. You know, forget the lead out. He was the exception to that rule for sure. And he would just come flying out of nowhere. A lot of fun to watch.
Race smarter, not harder. That's what they say. Bahati had it figured out and still does. I know he's doing some virtual racing out there as well, working with Zwift out in California. All right, we are down to 3 laps to go here at the front of the group. Nobody able to get away. It looked earlier in the day, Frankie, like we might see a split in the group, but I don't think that's going to happen today. It's looking to me like this one is going to be a field sprint. I want to go back to talking about how the sprints played out yesterday, because it was really that last turn. For Jackie Godby, certainly, it was much clearer in the women's race to see Godby rocketing out of the last turn. This one, though, a little longer from the last turn to the finish line. So I don't think this one is won and lost in the last turn like it was yesterday. This one will be decided on the finish line, because it is long enough to get a good sprint in to really test the legs today.
And when it's a long drag like that, you get very tempted to take a flyer, to go early. And so a lot of riders aren't going to wait till 250, 300 meters to go. You might have some guys come around that last turn, and when they punch it to be able to stay in the group, they're going to find themselves a little bit off the front, like Melville is right now, and they're going to continue on with their sprint. And that's exactly what Melville actually did yesterday in the Janesville criterium. So Melville obviously doesn't want to wait around for a sprint, and he's being joined by Bryn again. Sindra Bryn, the rider he goes to Colorado Mesa University, joining forces here to try to see if they can get a breakaway. 2 times throughout this race, we've seen a group of 3 or a group of 4 get a little bit of a gap, a little bit of a lead, where I thought the breakaway might be able to stay away, and it's been brought back. Maybe these 2 guys have the solution.
Breen going to drop off a little bit. Melville rolling up the road, as this is going to take him down to 2 laps to go. Breen getting a little resurgence here. These guys are going to need more space than that, though. I don't know that I see these 2 staying away as Mike Swart comes to swoop them up. And looks like he'll continue to press through for Restart Racing.
Yeah, and watch out for those green jerseys and the light blue jerseys and the white and green jerseys. Above and Beyond, Project Echelon, Restart, and Team Tour 2000. Those are kind of the bigger teams. You know, we talked about each of them having, 5 riders to 6 riders in the race, as Hal Blackburn now comes to the front. So this is part of the lead out. They're trying to set up their teammates, trying to keep trying to prevent anybody else from attacking.
Yeah, look for Oosborne in here. Let's figure out where Oosborne is and then watch the way that he rides. Ben Thomas, you see moving up the outside there. I would guess that Oosborne is going to be not far behind, although I think that might be him on the left side of the group. You see the 2 Above and Beyond Cancer jerseys right on each other. Eric Hill also in the mix here for Project Echelon. Project Echelon might be sending a rider up here to try and mix things up in the sprint. So really just about biding your time, trying to find a wheel to follow, or at least keep your eye on the big stars, the sprinters that you think might have a chance of trying to get away out there. So this is going to be an interesting finish to watch here, that's for sure. 1.7K to go. These guys coming up on an hour in the saddle. Going to be a little faster than yesterday here. I think they were a little over an hour yesterday, but this will take us down to 1 lap to go when they hit the line. So Todd, we have given up your bell-ringing duties to the one and only Tom Schuler, and I got to be honest, I think he's kind of enjoying it. So we might have a full-time bell ringer when we get back to racing.
Well, he clearly has some skills.
One to go.
Here we go.
One to go, one to go, one to go, one to go. Was that early? Was I early?
No, right on time.
Oh, dear. Oh, dear.
You were saying about the skills, Todd.
I'm going to eat that one right there. Going to eat that statement.
Hey, it's tough. It's we're all virtual here. We're all over the country. How about Eric Hill attacking here? Wisconsin's own.
Yes, indeed. So everybody's here. We go. One to go. Hit him, Tommy.
We're already halfway through the last lap. We got 800 meters to go on the final lap. Eric Hill trying to lead out his Project Echelon riders. Charlie Velez now on the attack. So it's going to come down to the sprint. 700 meters to go. Looking for Oosborn, our winner from yesterday. But look at Charlie Velez in the red, up there 9-10 watts per kilogram. I talked about coming out of the last corner. Going to have some momentum. You find yourself at the gap. You go off on a long ways. And look at Velez in the bottom left-hand corner. Just going. Now waiting for Oosborn to be able to attack. He's on his drops, waiting patiently. Who's going to be the first to strike?
Look at Velez going hard. This guy's going to break his trainer at this rate. He's going to snap those handlebars right off the bike underneath him. Now everybody starts to light it up. Here goes Oosborn. Look at Bruce Bird going side to side. Kevin Bouchard Hall there as well, as these guys getting down to it.
Oh, my. That's a photo finish right there.
And looks like Blodgett got the best of them there. So I think that's Restart Racing with a win there. But, Frankie, they were all over the place. That was a tough one to call. I'm glad the computer can pick these.
That was all over the place, but you're right. Restart Racing with Blodgett taking that. And then Bouchard Hall doing a great. We saw the sprint that he did when he won the Indy Crit. So that's Restart Racing also. So Restart Racing talked about the plan that they had, first and second in Oosborn, picking up a third. The other question is, where's Ben Thomas? Nowhere. So Oosborn picking up valuable points, getting closer to Ben Thomas's overall series lead. But that was a fast and aggressive Giro de Grafton. Enjoyed watching that one.
Yeah, absolutely. That'll be disappointing for Ben Thomas out there today. There is your race winner, Dave Blodgett, getting ready. We're going to grab a word with him as we get ready for our pro women's race here. So we got a little bit of time. We're going to let the rest of our riders roll in here. We'll do some calculations on the points and then try and grab a word with our race winner out there. Frankie, good to see a new name at the top of the leaderboard today.
Yeah, his first win in the Echelon Racing Series. So, yeah, absolutely. And I really think a lot of it is, Todd had mentioned it. They had a morning meeting, and they set out a plan, and they executed it perfectly.
All right, let's see if we can go into our Zoom room and grab a word with Mr. Blodgett here. All right, David. Can you hear us?
I can.
All right, we got you loud and clear. Hey, congratulations. A new name on the leaderboard for us. Tell me about the plan for Restart Racing today. You guys were all over the front of the race, but were you the man for Restart today?
I mean, we were just kind of playing it by the numbers. As many people as you can put in the front sprint, and at the end of this one was going to give you chances. So,
talk to me about
the game of luck.
Go ahead.
No, it seems like it's a game of luck with these sprints. Like, the draft is so strong that if you come to the line with good timing, you can get it. So coming into the finish, the last couple laps, we were all just kind of like, try and stay off the front to the last 50 meters. And if you can get there at the right time, you can get it. And I think Kevin and I both hit the front about the same time, and it worked out.
All right, you got to give yourself a little more credit than that. You make it seem like you just accidentally got to the front. You've been working on these sprints. You've been playing the game on RGT and finishing it out. So give yourself a little more credit in the Restart Racing team. Have you been learning the racing tactics? I mean, do you feel like you've been getting better on RGT, understanding how the game is played a little bit more?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Mike Swart asked me to join the team. I've been racing here in Wisconsin for years, and this was my first year racing esports. And he asked me to join up for the RGT series or for the Echelon series. And it's been a learning experience. I've also been building form all season and kind of finally coming good, and it feels good to get one. This was a lot of fun, and especially being towed. And I've been working on the courses for these Magic Roads, so it was cool to, I guess, have designed some of the course digitally and be able to race it and take the win.
Yeah, you've had a chance to race Grafton in real life, obviously. I mean, how does the effort line up? Is it close?
I mean, the big difference is the group doesn't line out. I think the best thing they could do for RGT, but probably the hardest thing to implement, is getting the group to line out. It does the way it does in a real crit, because then you wouldn't have. I mean, it was easy in the middle of the race. We were all kind of just sitting, going really fast, and no brakes could go up the road because of the group with the churn. There's just the group has so much momentum in comparison to everybody else, and if it was lined out, that momentum wouldn't be able to carry through the way it does. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot like the real race in small groups. With the big group dynamic, it's still e-racing. So.
Well, it worked out for you guys today, and don't say you got lucky. Great ride out there. David Blodgett, your race winner today at the Giro de Grafton for Restart Racing.
Well, cheers.
That's all right. I should have thrown inside.
The world is changing.
I'm looking to do things better.
To improve.
Just because it's always been that way doesn't mean it's right.
I embrace change.
I seek adventure and discovery.
I explore the unexplored.
To know the unknown.
Even in the toughest moments, we ride together.
Even in the moments when we're at our limits.
We support each other. It's time to move up a level.
Push that little bit harder.
Changes we make now will make the future better for all. The efforts we put in today will pay dividends tomorrow.
We all have the power to up the game.
To build something better.
It's not time to play. It's time to get real. It's time to be a game changer.
As an athlete, getting marginally better is one thing. Getting exponentially better puts you in a whole new ballgame. Biomoto uses a proprietary digital process to capture movement at 200 frames per second and 70 sensors per foot to measure ground-based forces, resulting in advanced motion analysis that's up to 10 times more accurate than orthotics. It's the data generated by this process that allows Biomoto to construct custom insoles that make athletes faster, stronger, and more stable, and results in an unprecedented 95% success rate.
Echelon Racing League Tour of America's Dairyland is brought to you by Quick Trip, by Project Echelon, educating and equipping and empowering veterans through physical activity, by Hyper Ice, move better with Hyper Ice, and by Nations, enhancing the reach of esports, including the Echelon Racing League. A little cruise down the river into downtown Milwaukee, as we wrap up our pro men's race, getting ready for our pro women coming up here in about 10 minutes from now. They're on a 5:30 Eastern Standard Time start. But, guys, what an exciting finish to the pro men's race wrapping up there. Todd, I want to start with you. So cool to see a guy that's raced this race in real life get the win on the virtual platform for David Blodgett. That is awesome. You see Blodgett and his Restart Racing teammate Kevin Bouchard-Hall going 1 and 2. Matt Usborne in third for the Above and Beyond Cancer presented by Bike World team. Chris Navin held on for fourth place. Talked a lot about Chris today for Triple X Racing presented by Athletico. Ned Bowen from the Cardiac Athletes team moving up into fifth place after a top 10 ride yesterday. There's Ben Thomas in sixth for Team Tour 2000 presented by Caliso. He hung in there. It wasn't quite, I think, the result that Thomas wanted. And then Dowd, Bird, Breen, and Segabrush finishing out the top 10 with Segabrush for the Canyon Esports team. So Wisconsin rider at the top of the leaderboard. That is about as cool as it gets for our local racing here. So, guys, let's talk about our pro women's race. Looking ahead, what did we learn from the pro men's race based on the way that this one played out? I think we see some more attacks out there. I think we see more attempts to try to get away. But if I learned one thing from the pro men's race that we just watched, it's that it is really hard to get a breakaway going because there were some strong groups that got away off the front today. And, Todd, they just couldn't stick out there.
Yeah, it's the length of that Wisconsin straightaway. You're going to see anybody trying to go up the road. Then you have the RGT dynamics, the physics of it on the backside where all the corners are. But, yeah, it's going to be a team competition again. I'm looking forward to seeing who's going to show up. But you might also have the David and Goliath because Triple X, one strong rider, and sometimes that's all you need.
Yeah, let's talk about our situation heading into this weekend of racing at the Tour of America's Dairyland, because Jackie Godby has been dominant in the team competition, but there have been a lot of good battles behind her, a lot of good groups sort of racing amongst themselves in these women's races. We talked about the Velocity Vixen team doing a really good job yesterday. So for a lot of riders, Frankie, they're just getting a chance to ride on these cool courses. I mean, it's an opportunity to see a course that maybe you wouldn't have been able to see or ride before.
And be able to do, some of these races that you wouldn't have been able to do before. And so it kind of gives them a little bit of some motivation, some focus on what to look forward to when Tour of America's Dairyland comes back. But I think it's going to be, a good race. I really look forward to see if Buonassisi, Bronan McGregor, and the other one was, it wasn't Ellie Larson, if they can stay in the group. I would love to be able to see them. They're the 7, 8, where they kind of keep getting gapped off on some of the corners. And I think on this course, and if they can have a good start, great opportunity for them to be able to stay in the group and be able to keep that group a little bit bigger. So I'm looking forward to watching how that will play out.
All right, well, they are getting ready to roll here as we are coming up on 6 minutes away from our race start. There are the riders getting warmed up and ready to rocket off the line for our pro women. So we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll have some more racing from the Echelon Racing League.
All right, we are out here, Camino Escuela in Tucson, Arizona, for the first ever Camino Escuela Hill Climb Championship. Competitors here. Sean is going to be rocking the e-bike, the new Subito e-bike, weighing in at like 30 pounds, an additional, I don't know what that does, 200 watts. Heather, all natural. The course, I mapped it out earlier, it's about 1.3 kilometers. I think it gains about 30 to 40 meters, that's around 100 feet, and it's just short of a mile. Yo! Shooting at the demons, see your dreams, making them more fun. Yeah. And if you wanna run away from the best you've done, yeah, I'll be there to save the day. I'll be your rising sun. Have you ever had a feeling that there's no hope anymore, and then someone walks in your life and just heard you calling. I saw your sleepless face and I fell hard. I guess I'm falling for you, girl. I can reach the stars. Now. Oh, the nights we couldn't sleep, was there carrying going on. Shooting at the demons, see your dreams, making them more fun. Yeah. And if you wanna run away from the best you've done, yeah, I'll be there to save the day. I'll be your rising sun.
All right, that just happened.
Yeah, I'm the champ. That was crazy. I mean, I hit my button and she had no chance.
I thought I was dropping you. And you were just messing
I
with
was stretching, getting ready for my effort. I did a little bit of this, one of these, and then I just went.
We thought you were like getting dropped too.
This is how it feels. I feel so powerful right now.
My name is Dr. Alan Lim. I'm an exercise physiologist, and I've spent most of my career working with professional cyclists. For years, I've been getting riders to ride on static trainers that don't move. But now, with the Infinity technology by Ceres on the MP1 platform, you have fore-aft movement as well as side-to-side movement that ultimately greatly enhances comfort. Every single contact point can move in a more natural way, and over the long haul, what that means is you don't get beat up by your static trainer. With just that little bit of motion, you start to replicate what you feel in the outdoors, and that changes the entire experience. I think that one of the big reasons for that is that we're naturally tuned to want to move. Our vestibular system, when it's activated, ends up, creating, I think, a sense of harmony or joy that just isn't the same when you're not able to move. It's like the difference between a rocking chair versus a static chair. And a lot of it, I think, is about expectation, because when you get it on a bicycle, you expect it to move. And so when you get on the MP1 platform with the Infinity technology, you get that same level of movement. 6 degrees side to side, 9.5 inches fore and aft. And what that does is it creates an experience that is just so much more enjoyable, so much more fun than being on a static trainer. When you look at the design of the MP1 platform, it's not just designed for the H3 trainer by Ceres. It's also designed to be compatible with almost every new smart trainer currently on the market. So if you don't own the H3, but you have your own trainer at home, odds are this will be compatible with the MP1. Another unique feature of the Infinity technology on the Ceres MP1 platform is that it's best in class. You have 6 degrees of side-to-side motion and 9.5 inches of fore-aft motion. That's movement that specifically replicates what you feel outdoors, and there's no other competitor on the market that can simulate that type of movement. It's certainly not the kind of movement that you can get by just putting tennis balls under your trainer. Cycling isn't just about your legs and your lungs. It's also about being able to handle the bicycle, and that takes a lot of control in both your core as well as all of these small stabilizer muscles. On an indoor trainer that is static, you're just not getting any of that specificity. But with the Infinity technology built into the MP1 platform, you are able to use and have to use all of those stabilizers to control the bicycle. The net effect is that not only do you get a workout for your legs and your lungs, but you also get a workout for your core. The Infinity technology built into the MP1 platform creates the best-in-class movement for any trainer system. You've got 6 degrees of side-to-side movement, 9.5 inches of fore-aft movement, and the net result is way more comfort, way more fun, the ability to use your core or stabilize your muscles, and you've got a platform that is compatible with most trainers.
Welcome back. Good look at some of our pro women getting ready to roll as they get their pain cave situated and set up ahead of their race coming up here in about 9 minutes from now. They're just towing some virtual cars off the course now, and then we'll be underway and racing here very shortly here, guys. It's super realistic what they're doing with these video games these days. I'll tell you what. Let's go back and take a look at yesterday before we get into talking about today, because it was a good one. A real pleasure watching Jackie Godby dominate off the front out there, as she really was not only aggressive in the final kilometer. We saw Godby all over the front out there for most of the day, Frankie. She was not afraid to put the power into the red zone.
She likes riding at about 4 to 5 watts per kilogram, and she kind of did. She just kept from the very beginning, put the pace right at about 4.1 to 4.3 and said, all right, who's going to stay on my wheel? Who's going to keep up with me? And actually it dwindled down to a group of about 6 that did a great job of staying with Jackie Godby. There were a few attacks, but Godby is just, she can ride on the front, respond to the attacks, and sprint. She pretty much has an entire package working for her right now.
Yeah, look at the way she shoots out of that last turn and then just leaves the chasers in her dust. But that sprint, not to be overshadowed by the long, sustained effort that she put in throughout the day, Todd. She is riding perfectly. For a triathlete that's used to these long, sustained efforts, Jackie Godby has really figured out how to use her strength to her advantage here on RGT.
She was like an orchestra of 6, and she was the conductor. She set the pace. She said, here's how fast we're going to go. If you're on board, stay with me. As Frankie said, there was a group of 6, 5 riders staying with her. What was interesting is right towards the end, Eleanor Wiseman had a technical, if you will. She lost connection for a moment, but was able to chase back on and finish with that group of 6. Meantime, here's Jackie Godby. She's in her pain cave, and she's ready to lay down the herd again.
Well, it wasn't the first time that we saw Jackie Godby riding like that. I mean, the way that she rides has been proven time and time again. She almost never leaves the drops on her time trial bike. You very rarely see her in those aero bars on the time trial bike. She's so consistent out there when she rides, but also has a pretty good recovery method. She's always got some chocolate on hand, a little reward for her efforts. But at 31 years old, Jackie Godby has just been incredibly impressive. As we said, out of Chicago, Illinois, I think she's up to 12 Echelon Racing League wins now if we add in her win from Indy Crit, the Indy Crit weekend, and then the win yesterday. So Godby has been on an absolute tear for the Triple X Racing Athletico team. And no surprise to see her at the top of the series standings with a pretty commanding lead over second and third place. But I'm going to be looking at some of these other battles. Look at Doble Hickok and Christy Tracy in second and third place, 265 versus Tracy's 224. Stephanie Sidlick still in the running. She might be able to overtake Christy Tracy to get onto the overall podium into third for Canyon Esports with 202 points. And then Eleanor Wiseman, Todd, who you were talking about yesterday for the Amy D Foundation at 197. That's why Wiseman fought back in yesterday, because she knew she was in 5th place overall. So every race, every point matters for Eleanor Wiseman. I'm going to be watching her today. I think that's a good sign. When you can fight back in, Todd, that you might have the legs and motivation to have a good day today for Wiseman.
She's hungry, and she knows that a series is a series. Krista Doble Hickok not racing today, reportedly heading to the training camp, so traveling, not able to lay down any points, 3rd, 4th, 5th place. Looking at a wide-open opportunity there.
Talked about the Velocity Vixen team yesterday, doing a great job riding together, keeping all their riders in there. That's why they're at the top of the team leaderboard here with 617 points. But you also got to look at 4th place overall. Triple X Racing presented by Athletico with one team member in Jackie Godby, who has single-handedly picked up 431 points for that Triple X Racing Athletico team. So let's talk a little bit more about the course today. Todd, a six-corner, very unique course. I want to talk about the elevation on this one because you pick some up on the backside and then that downhill run to the finish out of turn 6.
Yeah, it doesn't appear like there's a lot of elevation, but very similar to Janesville. You do it again and again and again, and it's like using a fingernail file on the prison bars, a scenario you're familiar with, Brad. Eventually, you're going to make your way through those bars, and eventually those little rises, especially coming out of turn 2, turn 3 by the fire station, it starts wearing you down. You get a good look at it right there. A little bit of gradient change each lap, but you got that downhill on Wisconsin luring you to go too early, but if you do, it's not pretty.
All right, let's take another lap around the course here from our Pro Men's 1-2 race last year. Again, full disclaimer, sped up at time and a half speed here to get us around the course a little quicker. So if it looks like the legs are moving kind of quickly, they are. We put the fast forward button on this one, but it's a good chance to get a view of this course, Todd. And I think the other defining feature of this course is maybe the roads. I mean, these things are like 4-5 lanes wide. It's plenty of room to move up if you want to in Grafton, but not everybody wants to. There are a lot of riders that just want to sit in all day.
Well, it's like real estate in Florida. There's a lot of it available, but not all of it is a good idea because there are fast lines and there are not so fast lines, especially on that final turn. Coming down off Broad Street onto Wisconsin, there's really only one line that works at speed, and if you're not in it, you just bought swampland.
Then you see
there
these
it
guys.
Is right there. That's the line you want.
Yep, absolutely. They took the apex perfectly. You see how they lay those cones down in the corner because riders cut it so close into the gutter trying to find the fastest line through, and then it's on the way down from there. So I want to go back to the finish line where, Todd, you had a chance to check it out earlier this week.
Yep, that's our dog of the day. Got to have a dog of the day at the Tour of America's Dairyland. We're at the Giro de Grafton. We're on course. We're outside turn number 6 where we're coming off Broad Street and heading on to Wisconsin. Now, if you look down the way there, you see this nice broad boulevard with a good bit of distance. The flag down there is on top of the Grafton Hotel. The stoplight you see, that's basically where start-finish hangs out. So we love watching the racing. You're coming streaming down Broad Street. It's a little tighter than a 90, and then you see the finish line. You have to hang on and keep your powder dry. If you go too early, it's not pretty. It's a long way to pay dirt, the finish line here at the Giro de Grafton. You're going to see that kind of virtually playing out throughout the course of the day here on our RGT course, and then hopefully we'll be seeing it again this summer right here in Grafton. We're on course at the Giro de Grafton. Back to you guys.
All right, Todd, be
that
honest.
Was the coolest dog ever.
There's no way he was just hanging out. You had to bring that thing with you.
All right. It's a prop dog, but I don't go anywhere without a prop dog. No, he honestly was sitting there on the front lawn, and anybody who walked by, he would select one of half a dozen toys, bring the toy up, and ask that person, random strangers walking by, to play with him. He was fabulous. I had to fight the urge to load him in the car and bring him home.
I'm going to go see him next year. That's going to be my first stop when I get into Grafton. I'm finding the dog. The dog of the day, one of my favorite things of Tour of America's Dairyland, by the way. Every day, Todd gives a dog of the day prize to the cutest or coolest dog out there. They get, obviously, a milk bone at the Tour of America's Dairyland. So we met some pretty cute dogs along the way, Todd, but that might be an overall leader, a potential overall leader competitor there with the Golden Retriever in Grafton. Hard to beat.
Yep.
All right, well, we are just about 30 seconds away from our pro women's race getting underway here as you see the riders lined up at the line again. The incredibly important start as they all try to ratchet up the power here. But I have a feeling Jackie Godby is going to be really the driver of this group today, because if you're sitting in this group, if you're any other rider in this race, Frankie, why would you not just look at Jackie Godby and be like, hey, do whatever you want. It's your world. I'm just living in it. And then just hope that you can hold on to Godby at the finish line. I would think that's got to be the maybe prevailing strategy here.
Well, right now the rider's getting out of the saddle to be able to put in that power, but you got to hope that maybe Godby has a bad day. You never know. A tough day yesterday, a hard, fast day, perhaps having a little bit tired legs, and if she doesn't have the tired legs today, maybe she'll have it tomorrow. But look at everybody in the red, and so this is a fast start. And again, I would love to see Holly Larson to be able to stay in there, Buena Cici to be able to stay in there. One rider already getting gapped off. Might have been, not sure who that was. I'm going to have to be able to check on that. But it would be great if some of these riders, the 7, 8, and 9, if they're able to stay in there a little bit longer. So we'll see how that plays out. So Godby has to decide also. Does she want to ride on the front for an hour and 15 minutes, or is she willing to sit back and kind of let this race play out a little bit and maybe take some pressure off her shoulders? So we'll have to wait to see what kind of attitude Jackie Godby has for this race as we see the Velocity Vixens. So it's Holt that's struggling there.
This is, I think, one of the Amy D Foundation riders having a little trouble early on here, holding on to the pace, holding on to the tempo. So Sue Lynn Holt from the Amy D Foundation doing a nice job trying to hang in here. Though, look how she goes into the red zone. She knows she's got to make up that time sooner rather than later. So we'll keep an eye on Holt. I hope she can get back in here. I'd like to see her get back into the group. Todd, a lot of times when a rider like Jackie Godby goes to the front in a situation like this, the action is not what's happening at the front, it's what's happening at the back.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the conversations have taken place before the race. Everybody knows the score when you have a rider that's dominant in a series like this. We see it in IRL at the Tour of America's Dairyland. So they know that she's going to be setting the pace for the most part. But you have the team competition. You have other ways that your team, Velocity Vixen, for example, can make a dent in this series. And so they're working on staying together, staying with the group. And as Frankie has said, that would be a real emotional victory for them. Stay with this group as long as possible. Continue racking up those team points.
Yeah, for a lot of riders, finishing with the front group will be a victory today, Frankie. Just like a lot of riders just want to finish on the lead lap or trying to finish with the main group on a road race, they can call that a victory. I'd say if you finish in the same group as Jackie Godby and Christy Tracy, you can be pretty happy with your effort on that day.
100%. I agree with you. If you can finish with the lead group, I think you've done job well done. Because no matter what, it's going to be a hard, tough race. So right now the attacks are starting, and it's Godby who decided, hey, enough's enough. She sat back for the first lap just kind of to see how things are going, but now she's putting the pace down. So Velocity Vixen riders all in the red trying to be able to get back up. And so this is a critical point in the race, and, well, we're 2 minutes in.
Chris Nathan.
All right, so we thought
YouTube.
that yeah, go ahead, because we thought it was just Jackie scoring points for Triple X, but Coach Chris has said, not so much. We got some help in that department.
And Rebecca Pigua and Fiona Beltram also picking up some points for Triple X Racing throughout the season. The teams can start as many riders as they want each week. They submit a roster of like 15, 20 riders at the beginning of the season, but I think they can race up to 6 per day. At the Tour of America's Dairyland, this one is being scored as an omnium, so the teams don't have to race the same riders every day. Some of the other races in the Echelon Racing League were scored like a stage race, so if the riders didn't finish one day, they weren't able to race the next day. But this one, just like in real life, the riders can kind of pop in and out throughout the day, or throughout the weekend, I should say. So maybe some riders taking today off, getting ready to focus on the Saturday and Sunday races as we move into the rest of the weekend. Alyssa Weber still over on our Tour of America's Dairyland and Echelon Racing League social channel. She's got a giveaway for some quick trip prize packages to the next person to comment over on the YouTube page. So she's running the Tour of America's Dairyland socials. They also have a fan Zoom room going where spectators are going to have a chance to pick up some Quick Trip and Subaru swag and maybe hang out with some other Toad friends. There's a lot of people, Todd, that we see once a year, but they feel like family members because we spend 11 days in a row with them at Tour of America's Dairyland. So it's been kind of weird not seeing some of those folks, not seeing some of our Toad family this year, but maybe the fan Zoom room be a good chance to reconnect.
Yeah, we're going to get back up there, and it's going to be like no time passed at all. A lot of the folks coming out and seeing the racing every year. We love them coming up to the stage and saying hello again. You know, earlier, Alyssa gave away a Subaru prize package. I cannot with certainty confirm that there wasn't an actual Subaru involved in that prize package. So I think the Mike Lister fan club jumped on that. So who knows, maybe Alyssa's going to drive up in a brand new car. Probably not. I don't want to get in trouble for saying that. But she didn't rule it out, did she? Right now, it's the Quick Trip package that's on the line. This is one of the cool things about going north of the Cheddar Curtain for me, is that you can head to Quick Trip, and you're going Quick Trip, I'm going Quick Trip. All right, first of all, when I was up there shooting some of the stuff for the RGT series, fried chicken. Bill Koch said, got to try the fried chicken. And whatever Bill Koch says, I do. I tried the fried chicken. It was life-changing. It was life-changing. It really was. Now, of course, Quick Trip already a favorite place to go for breakfast sandwiches, because you think you've had a breakfast sandwich, have a Quick Trip breakfast sandwich. It'll change your life. They do such a great job with their food. I really love what's going on up there. They make a lot of it fresh. They have their own dairy, their own bakery. So a Quick Trip prize package, yeah, that's worth chasing down. Nice job, Alyssa.
A culinary institution up in Wisconsin as well. Got a question here for Frankie from Velocia Sports asking, did Frankie McCormick ever teach you his Oreo eating method? With a fork, just wedge it into the cream and dip. It's life-changing. No milk on your fingers. Frankie, you want to take this one?
I can't say Frank McCormick ever taught me that, but you know what? It makes sense. It sounds like a pretty good plan to be able to keep the fingers dry. And, it says, speaking of Oreo eating, ask Tom Schuler how to properly chicken wings. He probably keeps the bone in them and downs them. But Todd, I'm curious now. The Cheddar Curtain, where is that line?
Oh, Frankie, come on. Come down below Lake Michigan, leave Detroit, head north, and you will know. You will know, because as soon as you cross from Illinois, Indiana, there's a very nice cow there that waves at you, says, hello, welcome to Wisconsin. You've crossed through the Cheddar Curtain. It's an out-of-body experience, quite frankly.
I just keep yelling, go Bears, until people get mad, and then I know that I'm up north. Then I know I'm into Green Bay country. So they're not big fans of the Bears north of the Cheddar Curtain, and they're not big fans of the Packers south of the Cheddar Curtain. So if you're ever confused, just shout out one of those NFL teams. They'll let you know where you are real quick.
That's indeed true. And the thing about the Cheddar Curtain is it leaks, because Packers fans, no matter what city I go to, invariably, I could put a huge bet on it and my money would be safe. There's always going to be somebody showing up with a Packers hat on it. I'm Houston, Miami. There's always somebody with a Packers hat. They travel.
It's too bad you guys don't have a professional football team up in Detroit, Frankie. I know you have the AAA Lions, but it's fun watching the rivalry between these two pro teams in Wisconsin and Illinois.
We are in the process of making some changes, and so we got rid of the head coach, we got rid of the general manager, we got rid of the CEO. Yeah, so we will see if any of these changes make a difference. But before, honestly, in the area here, nobody was excited or looked forward to the Lions and what was going on. So with all of these changes and cleaning house, there's actually a little bit of excitement to see what's going to happen, and so I'm on board with that.
Let's bring pro football back to Detroit. I like it.
Out of the race with a screen app malfunction. Timmy Bauer having an issue with the technology, but having a good time nonetheless. Everyone, thanking everyone for a fun event. Get pumped about the flexing our guns. Go team. ABC will be back tomorrow. Thanks, Project Echelon. Well, thank you, Timmy. Putting on a great show for us. Timmy Bauer heading out after today's race. He'll be back tomorrow.
Shouting out his ABC squad, the Above and Beyond Cancer, presented by Bike World Team. They've got some merch up in the We Are Nations web shop. Every team in the Echelon Racing League has gear up on the website. You can check that out at wearenations.com. The teams get a portion of all the proceeds. They've got hats, T-shirts, hoodies, dog collars, all kinds of cool stuff up on the We Are Nations web shop. So check it out. Support your favorite team. and get yourself some very cool merch out there. Bummer for Timmy Bauer. You hate to hear about a technical, but Todd, it's just like real life racing, right? The prepared riders, good luck favors the riders that tend to prepare a little more. So just like the riders are always checking their bikes, making sure that it's in good working order, virtual racing has its own set of things, and having good internet is one of those. So even though it might be cooler to race in your garage, maybe the internet out there isn't so great. So you got to run a cable or find a better place in the house with better Wi-Fi. So new frontiers for virtual technical racing.
Well, there's a contrarian position that seems to work out really well because the hip kids are all wireless. Everything's wireless, Bluetooth, Ant Plus, wireless. But now we're starting to see at least one manufacturer bringing back the option of hardwiring your trainer. Come on, it's not rocket science. If you're racing and there's, at the very least, team prestige and perhaps even a little bit of cash on the line, wouldn't you want to do whatever you could to avoid dropouts? I would love to see more of the manufacturers incorporate wired trainers. The trainer I use in my pain cave is connected to a computer that's hardwired to the internet. The only place I'm using signal that's broadcast RF is a very short throw from the Ant Plus sensor to the trainer itself. Everything else is wired.
I would love to see some of our guests get wired internet. Even then, sometimes it's not good enough. I mean, if you don't have, if you have an issue with like an upload or download speed, I know I had issues yesterday. I was plugged in. I had my Ethernet cable going, but I'm blaming Verizon for that one. The other day, Frankie had an AT&T truck parked outside of his house. He like lost internet right at the end of the show, and then looked outside, and there were the AT&T linemen working on the thing. So you never know. Sometimes there are things beyond your control, but I think they might have upgraded Frankie's internet. You're looking a little better this week, Frankie.
I actually changed service providers. Because I was having a problem with the internet, and honestly, my kids were just complaining nonstop. And so I was like, all right, enough of this. So I changed providers and went back, and I'm happy with where I'm at right now. Although I so-called cut the cable, but I honestly think I'm paying more despite cutting the cable, because now I have YouTube TV, which of course my wife hates because it's not like normal cable TV. So you never win. You just kind of keep you just chasing the circle. It's like your hamster yesterday just keeps running around in circles. That's what I'm doing here.
Oh, that reminds me.
Gotta feed the hamster.
Yeah.
I figured
he's got to be getting hungry.
Well, Brad, with your technology upgrade, I figured you got a bionic hamster because it seems like it's flawless today.
Robot, one of those Boston Dynamics hamsters.
Nice.
Yeah, there
Group
you go.
of 8 off the front of our race here at the Giro de Grafton RGT Virtual. So we've got a couple Velocity Vixen up there duking it out. Very happy to see that. Christy Tracy in there. She's the one who is sitting right in front of her for the taking a nice little upgrade in the individual contest, because the person in front of her, Kristen Doble-Hickok, not racing today. A group of 8 working well together. And Frankie, it looks to me like, are there 3 Velocity Vixen in there up on the front?
There's at least 2 Velocity Vixens that had made the group. Brennan McGregor, which is fantastic to see, and then I'm not sure of the other one right now. So a little bit of bad luck for Angie Bonacici, got gapped off, and again, it's hard. You get into these corners and they accelerate out of it, and Todd, you're familiar with that whiplash effect. It's compounded in virtual racing. You have to get out of the saddle and sprint, and if you have a 5 bike lengths, you can't close it down. It's very different because the speed is so high. So Velocity Vixen doing a great job. Nice shot of Christy Tracy on the right-hand side there. Doesn't like sprinting. Says she mistimes the sprints all the time. Almost got it right, except for Jackie Godby, who blew everybody out of the waters. Christy Tracy timed it perfectly to win. You could call it the field sprint. She placed second yesterday in that sprint. So it was a nice ride by her. Here we have Holly Larson and Angie Bonacici, and just behind Little and Holt, who are riding together from the Amy D project.
Nice job for these riders linking up. We saw this with Velocity Vixen yesterday, and now Holt and Little going to ride together. for the MED Foundation as we go back up to the front. Yeah, Christy Tracy, not a fan of sprinting at all, as you said, Todd. She actually sent me yesterday her proposed schedule, what she plans on doing for the remainder of 2021. I can tell you there's not a lot of sprint races on this calendar. Her next in-real-life event is a 450-mile gravel stage race. She's racing from Dallas to Austin while van camping in state parks in between the stages. Then there's some 100-mile road races in between before she goes to the 24-hour gravel race in Munster, Texas. So I don't know what 24 hours of gravel racing looks like, but I hope there's a lot of chamois cream involved. Then some more long 100-mile road races. The desert gravel race at 190 miles in Frida, Colorado. She's doing Unbound XL, 350 miles in Emporia, Kansas. So this is a rider that likes to go the distance, Todd. She is, safe to say, not a sprinter, and there's not a ton of sprinting opportunities when you're used to doing 100, 200, 300-mile stage races.
Yeah, one of the things I really enjoy about Tour of America's Dairyland is that you and I drive to all these venues, some of the drivers longer than others, and during those drives, we solve the world's economic problems. We come up with all these entrepreneurial ideas, which, if we took the time to implement them, we'd be independently wealthy, clearly. I have this notion that's just popped into my head that we should park a hot shower truck at the end of a 24-hour gravel race and charge $10 a whirl. We'd clean up. No pun intended.
Frankie, you want in?
I don't know how many people. I mean, it's a different world than what I'm used to. Anything with sleep deprivation, I'm against. I'm not into it. I don't like doing it. And so Christy Tracy, she's a beast. I mean, because at the end of the year, she plans on going to the World 12 and 24-hour time trial championships, which is going to be held in Borrego Springs. And so, yeah, these events that have sleep deprivation, for my own opinion, I frown upon them because I need my 8 hours of sleep.
Well, in that case, Frankie, let's do a little Giro de Grafton history. You weren't on board, but Brad, you were there. The very first year, do you recall the incident, the unusual incident that brought about sleep deprivation for a lot of the crew and the officials? Do you recall, Brad?
I think I was on the other side of the crew at that point. I think I graduated to the cushy job of announcing, so I'm not sure I'm familiar with what you're talking about.
Okay, so at 1 a.m., the hotel where the crew and the officials were sleeping was hit by lightning. Literally hit by lightning. So what happened?
Except that your alarm clock doesn't go off, right?
What happened was that it flipped out the HVAC system. Some of the rooms went full heat. Some of the rooms went full cool. Nothing in between. So we hear this enormous explosion. The manager comes running up the stairs. I, of course, was on the 4th floor of the 4-floor hotel. And he's running around, and I said, my room's about 100 degrees here. And he said, yeah, I just got a call from these two. They're down to 53 or something like that. And so the whole HVAC system up on the roof went completely crazy. And so he was running around turning it off. And then the next day, there was a bunch of guys in cranes trying to fix whatever got zapped by lightning on the roof of the hotel.
Frank, you might want to take Giro de Grafton off next year. I know you need your sleep, so I don't want you to end up in that situation.
Yeah, and Toad has definitely had some of those. I'm sure you have plenty of stories with the thunderstorms, the rain storms, and the lightning that come in. But, I'm not surprised that Todd was on the 4th floor of a 4-story hotel because he's a penthouse type of guy.
Top floor, man. Only the best for Todd Bastide. They really do roll out the red carpet for us at Tour of America's Dairyland. They treat us like rock stars up there. So big thank you to everyone at Toad. That's what makes it one of our favorite races of the year. That's for sure. Back with Holt.
Well, it looks
and
like we have a
Little.
group of 4. Yeah, that's the Velocity Vixen in that second group. Larson, Bonacici. I thought Chafin was up front. There's Rogers. Oh, okay, so that is the front group. Okay, yeah, and but the Canadian Rogers is still up there. Do we still have a group? No, it looks like the front group is coming apart just a little bit. Looks like we're down to 7 riders.
Yeah, I think Chafin is the one struggling to get back in there. You can see she is sitting a good bit off of this front group right here. So you might be able to barely see her off the back of this group. Although I think they might be riding away. No surprise to see Jackie Godby back on the front. Again, I'm watching the riders at the back here. I'm looking to see who's in trouble when Godby surges up to the front, because that's usually a good sign that somebody is about to pop out of the group. You can a lot of times find the riders that are what we call on the rivet. Here's Morgan Chafin, latest victim to Jackie Godby's pace. So now Chafin has a decision to make, because she's got to decide right here whether she's going to move up or at least try and catch back on, or if you just pull the plug and let the riders behind you catch up and maybe just try and sit in. So we might see Chafin joining up with Bonacici and Larson here as she finds some wheels to ride with out there after losing contact with the front group. Stephanie Sidlick fighting her way back in for the Canyon Esports team. Sidlick is another rider that has been really, really strong the entire season, Frankie. I think has made the selection pretty much every race we've had at the Echelon Racing League. Just hasn't had that one result. Hasn't, just hasn't been able to find that finishing kick to the top step of the podium. But Sidlick's always there. She's a really strong rider.
Yeah, very strong rider. And, her best result was second in the Joe Martin time trial, which, if you remember, it was kind of that, that uphill prologue, and she did a fantastic ride there. And she's a good climber, and so she's been very consistent. I mean, it's been Tracy, Godby, Sidlick has been there one race. I think it was last weekend of Redlands, technical issues that she kind of got dropped out, and so ended up not being there. But she's figured out the virtual platform, does a lot of the, talked about yesterday, the Gran Fondo National Championship Series, where she did many of the races, including the championship race where she kicked my butt out on course. And so, she's continuing to enjoy doing the virtual racing.
My God, look at the explosive acceleration it takes to stay in this group. You just saw her out of the saddle there for like 10 seconds, just trying to respond to this tempo being set on the front, trying to deal with the turns. Todd, I guess it's a lot like the real-life Giro de Grafton. You're either turning or going uphill. Not a lot of places to rest out there.
Yeah, as we said, really wide course, in front of the fire station, 3-4 lanes, plenty of room, but that doesn't mean you can do whatever you want, because you've got to stay in the draft. Once the speed is up, there are very few lines that work, especially coming off Broad Street onto Wisconsin, onto your main straight. So we're kind of emulating that with RGT. We're having these moves go, and you got to stay sharp. You got to keep an eye out. Group of 7 now with Brendan McGregor representing Velocity Vixens. Rogers is... looks like she's in there. Looks like she's in there and part of that group. Eleanor Wiseman is still up there. Stephanie Sidlick, who we just saw in her pain cave, also up there. So this is forming into a group of 7. We had 6 yesterday. We'll see if these 7 are going to take it to the line.
And the hard part for, as Brad, you were talking about, is, when you coming into the corners and you're coasting, and then if Godby's coming out of it at 5 watts per kilogram, you have to do the same, because there's only 7 of you, you're spread out across the road, so everybody has to kind of keep up. And that's what makes it so difficult, is coming, you're not in a straightaway being able to take advantage of the draft to be able to ride easy. Every time you come into a turn, you have to go red to come out of the turn, and after a while, that is increasing the fatigue on a lot of the riders. And that's kind of what I think Chaffin, what happened with Chaffin being able to drop off the back. But great ride right now by McGregor. Godby on the front right now, and you talk about all those points that she's won. She has 13 race wins out of 19 races, and so the bulk of those points that we were talking about, she managed to be able to take herself. But a good team, and Triple X Racing Athletico, and you talked about how large this club is out of the Chicago area. And fortunate enough that she found a good home to be able to learn from some really knowledgeable and experienced cyclists to help her along her career and her path.
Well, Jackie
a little
Godby
out of
certainly
character
not
for
making
Jackie
it to-
Godby there. Yeah,
go ahead, Todd.
she put in a little surge there. Yeah, she put in a little surge there, and when you're watching the watts per kilogram off the RGT data, that wasn't just her holding pace. That was her maybe checking to see if the rest of the group might have been on the rivet, and they clawed their way back and said, "No, we're all still here, present and accounted for."
Jackie Godby running her own training session here for these other riders, just pushing them to the limit, seeing who holds on, letting off a little bit, then she lays on it again. Great riding from Jackie Godby. All right,
I have a feeling the
these
rest of
riders-
the women's... Go ahead,
Todd.
Red.
I was just going to say, as
Well, I
these
just
riders
have a-
continue to tap out the tempo, I have another dairy quiz. If you guys don't mind, it's Friday night. I thought maybe we could have a little bit of fun here. So, Frankie, if you're ready for dairy quiz round 2, I think you were 1 for 2 yesterday. So let's see if we can get some more answers. You ready, Frankie?
Blizzard from Dairy Queen.
Incorrect. Haven't even heard the question yet. You just named a semi-dairy product. So let's go to our first question of the day. Which of the following is not a Wisconsin cheese? A cheese originally manufactured in Wisconsin. Is it A, Emmentaler cheese, B, Leberkuchen cheese, C, Justelipa cheese, or D, Liederkranz?
Ay. Todd, do you know the answer?
I do, Frankie.
Come on. I'm going Liederkranz.
Frankie Andreu says D, Liederkranz. Is that your final answer, Frankie?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
It's B. Leberkuchen is not a Wisconsin cheese. Todd, this one's tough, man. I know you come up with these questions, but I don't know what... I know what Emmentaler is. I've had Emmentaler cheese, but Frankie, that was a hard one. I don't blame you. What is a Leberkuchen, Todd? Do you know?
Wait a second. Hold on. Wait a second. You said Todd comes up with these questions?
He does.
It's a... Yeah.
I did not know that. So I should have asked Brad. Brad, did you know the answer?
I've been working with Todd for 10 years. I know the answer to all of these, man.
What you need to do, Frankie, is get in touch with Allison Dairyland and use a phone a friend when you get stuck like that. Yeah, Lebkuchen is a wonderful European. You see it a lot around the holidays. It's a type of cookie that has a savory bent to it, if you will.
And then what was the one that I picked?
Liederkranz.
Yeah.
Kind of cheese.
What is that?
Liederkranz. Well, I would have to reference my files here.
I'll tell you, Frankie. It's just off the top of my head, it's an American recreation of Limburger cheese, made subtly different by the use of a different bacterial culture of smear ripening. Liederkranz is a cow's milk cheese with an edible pale yellow tan crust and a semi-soft pale interior with a mildly pungent flavor and distinct aroma that could become unpleasantly ammonia-like if aged incorrectly. So you want to make sure that you get well-aged cheese. So there you go. That was just a little bit of...
Same texture and unique aroma of Limburger, but features a distinctly robust and buttery flavor.
Very nice. I'm pretty confident I've never had that.
I would say that's probably safe to guess.
I really was hoping you were going to guess Justelipa, because that, of course, is made with reindeer milk.
I did not know that. They have those in Wisconsin?
I'll see. Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah. All right, so let's turn the... Let's turn the tables on Mr. Sona here for just a second, then we'll get back to the racing. Brad, what is the indelible mark that the Giro de Grafton has left on you?
Boy, that's a tough one. For me, I think one of the best finishes I've ever called was Rasan Bahati's win there. It's a race that just sticks in my mind as an announcer because the entire city was cheering for Rasan. I mean, this guy, he was hyping up the crowd. He was a crowd favorite. He was doing very well in the Tour of America's Dairyland going into Grafton, and it just all worked out that night. So I just have this really vivid memory of Bahati's win there. I don't know what year that was. I'd have to go way back into the archives, but...
So that is a very good answer, but that is unfortunately not the correct answer because the term indelible was the key to the question. You, in fact, carry a scar on your body from a tricycle race that didn't go well. That is the indelible mark that Giro de Grafton has left on you.
Yeah, sorry. My therapist told me not to bring it up and not to talk about it anymore. There was a tricycle race that I participated in with some kids, some local celebrities, and, well, I was pretty much taken out by an 8-year-old. The kid was just vicious, right into my line, Frankie. I mean, this guy would have been relegated, like, instantly. I don't know where the officials were on this one. It was ridiculous. Nobody else saw the flagrant foul that I did, but... yeah, I ended up going into the barriers. I ended up on the ground, and I think I got a piece of the tricycle in my side. So that was the end of my tricycle racing career. Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, we
Thanks
wrote it into your contract that you were not allowed within 10 feet of tricycles. Had nothing to do with the kids. It had to do with preserving you.
All right, let's bring Tom Schuler back in here. Tom, is that true? Or do we have any more tricycle races on the schedule for the Tour of America's Dairyland this year?
Yeah, you know, Brad, it's true, but it's also true you are banned from all tricycle racing. So Frankie is subbing in. But I wanted to talk a little bit about our Wisconsin food a little bit. You know, yesterday I had my popcorn. Today I've had my Quick Trip Glazers right here. I'm down to one. There's one left. And my Nature Valley chocolate milk. But more importantly, I have a food quiz for Todd Bustede, Mr. Quizmaster himself. Todd, we have a new sponsor of our Dog of the Day, and that is From Family Foods. We're very happy about this. In fact, I serve my dog, Frankie, the dog food that I'm going to quiz you about. It is called Hessen Duckenpfeffer. What is that dog food? Hessen Duckenpfeffer.
Well, time out. You named your dog after Frankie Andreo. This is what I want to clarify.
I did. Don't try to change the subject, please. Hessen Duckenpfeffer is the question, please.
All right. So it involves poultry and rabbit and Hessen, which, of course, is a Norwegian word for antelope.
Very good. It is rabbit and duck. It is gourmet rabbit and duck food, and it is delicious. I have tried it, and I encourage you when you come to Grafton to do the same.
Tom's
Wait a
eating dog
second.
food.
You're sampling dog food now, Tom?
The popcorn's gone. I'm down to one glazer, and so, you know, there's plenty of dog food.
This is why
in the
Quick
house.
Trip is important. Because when Tom Schuler runs out of donuts, then all bets are off. Things get really sideways really quick. Tom's eating dog food. So, Quick Trip, the more stories you put in, the better. Let's save Tom
Todd,
Schuler.
We are really happy to have From Family Foods on board for the Dog of the Day, one of your favorite activities during the Tour of America's Dairyland.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. I really am.
I can't wait to try some Hessen Pfeffer or whatever it is. It sounds good. You make it sound delicious, Tom. Maybe not as good as those Glazers.
The racing is exciting, but we can't wait to be here in real life in Grafton at the Giro de Grafton.
All right, very cool. From Family Foods, our new
From
sponsor
Family
of
Foods,
the
yeah.
Dog of the Day. All right, we'll be hearing more about them this summer. Tom, thank you very much. Try to keep that glazer. Try to save it as long as you can. This is like the delayed gratification test with the kids. We're trying to see how long Tom can not eat the donut. All right, back to our front
down
group.
to
These
5.
guys, down to 5 riders here as Jackie Godby's effort on the front has sent more riders off the back here. Look at Jackie Godby, just looking comfortable as ever. I mean, barely looking like she's even trying here. We saw Stephanie Sidlick earlier out of the saddle, pushing hard, fighting to stay in, and Jackie Godby looks like she's out for a nice cruise along the lakefront path right now in Chicago. So, Godby doing what she does best, just setting a perfect tempo up here on the front, and it has claimed even more victims as we go down to 5 riders remaining up at the front. Very similar to what we saw yesterday here, Frankie. The selection being made lap after lap after lap. They just slowly whittle these riders down from 10 to 9 to 7, and now down to 5. Do you think these 5 riders make it to the line, or do we have a chance that we might lose one more before the end of this one?
I think these 5 will have a good chance of making it, but I think this is, Jackie needs to appreciate this right now because this is probably the most calm that she's going to be, over the next, couple months. She talked about how busy her summer is going to be with Jackie Godby, and on Monday, her and her fiancé Cooper are going to get matched for residency to be able to find out where they're working, and so for her medical school in radiology. So she's getting married in April, she's graduating in May, and then they have to move to their new jobs in June, along with trying to balance her cycling and her jobs. And so very, hectic schedule she has coming up. So I'm telling her, appreciate this calmness right now, because that's not going to be around once you kind of get into, your other aspects of her life. But I think these 5 can stick together. I think they're going to stay together until the end, and we're going to have a sprint. And then the other, the Velocity Vixen riders that we saw kind of riding together the other day, eventually I think they're going to gather up and kind of get back together also.
See Larson, Holt, and Bonacici back here off the back of the group in 9, 10, and 11. But looks like they might be catching up to Little up here up the road. Todd, you were saying something. 2 days.
Yeah, 2 days into this virtual bundle of 4 days of Tour of America's Dairyland racing. So there's going to be perhaps a little different scenario on day 3, maybe on day 4. Are you able to do those 5, 6, 7 watt per kilogram responses coming out of the corners when there's attacks on day 3? On day 4, do you need to kind of lay back on one day and look at the math? And one of the things that amazes me is how much math riders do when they're out IRL on the course and looking at positions and figuring out where they need to finish. Guys coming across the line in 7th place and celebrating because they've done the math and they know that puts them into category X in terms of their goals for that particular race in the series. So it may be that some of these riders, but again, Christy Tracy, the one I'm watching with especially interest, as she has the opportunity to make some massive gains on the individual competition today with Doble Hickok not racing.
Yeah, every place matters for Christy Tracy out there. Even if Jackie Godby wins, 2nd, 3rd, 4th place would still be pretty valuable for Christy Tracy in the overall. And she's only got 2 more days after today, as you said, to pick up points. So very quickly getting down to it. Speaking of our last 2 days of racing here at the Tour of America's Dairyland, starting tomorrow on Saturday, we're going to be adding paracycling presented by Project Echelon. We'll have a paracycling race on Saturday and on Sunday in between the pro men and pro women. It's going to be an awesome opportunity to watch some of our para athletes race. Todd, we talked a little bit about this yesterday, but the para racing, the hand cycling, has really become another one of those hallmarks of racing at the Tour of America's Dairyland, hasn't it?
Yeah, it really has. John Haupt was instrumental. There's a lot of conversations going on, and we said, yeah, let's make this happen. Project Echelon, of course, peripherally very interested in this happening because oftentimes you see vets that were injured in the line of duty that want to maintain that physicality, want to maintain that competitive lifestyle. And so we've created a venue through the Tour of America's Dairyland to do that. And this stuff is really so incredible because you're watching athletes who oftentimes are overcoming obstacles that we can't even fathom. There's a gentleman on my team named Joe Bernie who has shown, I've held Olympic, Paralympic gold, silver, and bronze medals that he has won in cycling. Those things are heavy, but it is such a sense of pride that he goes out and overcomes the obstacle that he's only got one arm to work with, and yet he can sprint that bike like nobody's business. And every single story that comes to the line, the hand cycling, the various categories, it's all really inspirational stuff. And we're so jazzed at Tour of America's Dairyland to be hosting this again this year. And we're going RGT virtual with it as well.
And didn't you guys have also the national championships has been held for hand cycling at the Giro de Grafton, the specific course, correct?
Absolutely, that was the case, and so much planning, just going into how to celebrate these athletes and putting together the podium presentation. We wanted to make sure that everything was on the same plane with any national championship, and we had such a great time celebrating that. One of the things that I'm missing right now is we're getting down to about 20K to go in this women's race. This is when the boards at Grafton get full. The further down the street you look, Wisconsin starts filling up, around turn 1 starts filling up, on the plaza is already full, and this is where the crowds come out. It happened for the men's race, it happened for the women's race, and fantastically, it happened for the para-athletes racing at Tour of America's Dairyland as well. Giro de Grafton, those boards would be full of people, yelling, screaming, cowbells, the whole shooting match. It was fantastic. Looking forward to it again.
Yeah, that finish stretch in Grafton is awesome. You can see all the way down, and it's so long that everyone wants to look sort of up the road at that finish line towards turn 6. So, yeah, can't wait to get back into real life in person. We haven't quite figured out how to do the virtual bang the boards yet. We got the virtual last lap bell in. We had Tom Schuler ringing the bell for us earlier. He's going to be back for one lap to go here, but we got to figure out how to get spectators to bang those boards. That's maybe the next step in the technology progression here of virtual racing. I want to go back to our para races real quick. You were talking about Joe Bernie. We're going to be able to watch riders from various categories out there racing. There are basically 4 different types of para riders you're going to be watching. That's Joe right there on the left-hand side of the screen. He is what's called a C category athlete. So it's not a hand cyclist rider. He's not on a recumbent or tricycle like you see the T1 and T2 categories. It's various levels of ability or various levels of impairment from C1 to C5. Same thing with hand cycles. For the riders that are on the hand cycle format of the bike, they have H1 through H5 categories, and there's 2 categories of tricycle riding, and then B1 and B2 for the visually impaired riders. They'll be on the tandem bikes out there where you have a pilot and a stoker for the BVI riders. So we're going to get a chance to watch all of them race tomorrow and Sunday at the Project Echelon Paracycling Races, part of the Tour of America's Dairyland.
Matt Bigos came out and used the Tour of America's Dairyland for training for his Nationals run, and he's done that a number of times. We love having Matt come out and race with us.
Some pretty incredible athletes that we've had a chance to meet, get to know over the years. And Jackie Godby continuing to dominate here in the group. Go ahead, Todd.
Speaking of incredible athletes, 18K to go. We're inside 18K now, and we've whittled that front group down. Christy Tracy, Eleanor Wiseman, Sydney Sidlick still in there. Strello also in that group of 5. So doing the math, who's got the answer to the conundrum that is Jackie Godby? Who's going to be able to take the top step? Is there a solution to this, or are we just hanging on and racking up points in the draft of Jackie Godby? That's the question we're going to be answering in the next 17.5 kilometers.
And we're going to find out real soon.
Easy. I mean, Sidlick, who's highlighted there, 180 watts, 179 watts. This is their rest period right now. I mean, with 17 kilometers to go, they know it's too far to be able to do something, to be able to go away by yourself to try to make it to the finish line. And so, they're just kind of following the wheels, but a little bit of a pause. But every time they come out of a corner, definitely a bit of an acceleration. But right now they're just trying to get some of the kilometers through their legs and kind of get a little bit closer to the finish. Coming up on almost 45 minutes of racing, this is where the fatigue starts to set in, and it's super important during this time. You have to be drinking during this time period because you're sweating like mad. This indoor cycling is completely different than the outdoor cycling, but all of these riders in the front group, super familiar with RGT and the platform. They've all been here a number of times.
All right, tapping out the tempo, just trying to hold on as we go under 17 kilometers to go. Whole field watching Jackie Godby out there. We're going to take a short break. We'll keep an eye on these 5 in the front group. And we got more live racing after this.
What does it mean when Quick Trip comes to your area? Quick Trip is much more than just a gas station. Everything here is fresh because we get deliveries every day. We source the best ingredients and product that Midwest has to offer, and we take pride in making a lot of the food items ourselves. So it's always the very best and the freshest. When you visit us, you can always expect great service and a Quick Trip smile. Hey, we're excited to be your new neighbor. Quick Trip, we've got you covered.
I think when anybody comes onto our farm, they see how family-oriented we are. Having the 3 generations all at one dinner table, it's just a really fun time to spend as a family. I would love to see them someday taking over the farm as well. That's a farmer's ultimate dream, to see it pass on to the hands of the next generation.
Support Wisconsin dairy farmers. Buy Wisconsin cheese and dairy.
How are you feeling today? Studies have shown that 70% of people have delayed getting health care or know someone who has. It's important to ask family, friends, and those you care about, how are you feeling today? Remind them to get the care they need. At Ascension, Wisconsin, appointments are available, ERs are open 24/7, and we have strict precautions in place to keep you safe. Get the care you need at getascensionwisconsincare.com.
When anyone asks about our city, the Brew City, the Cream City, the city of festivals and fish fries and summertime fun, it's hard to express it in just a few words because it's way more than America's third coast and America's oasis of old fashions and the heart of outdoor art. It's also a culinary convergence where Cheese Curd County, the frozen custard capital of the world, and the coffee acropolis all come together. It's where worst is first, unless it's chorizo, Polish, hot dog, or Italian. Heck, it's even the birthplace of the cheesehead. Our city, home of the domes and the Flying Art Museum on the water. It's the headquarters of Harley and the tavern that rolls and floats, where fruits fly and bands rise. Tavern Town? That's us. The Supper Club Sanctuary? Guilty. The last bastion of bar dice? Bingo! The Midwest Independent Movie Theater Mecca and the settlement of sausage? That's us too. We're a city sought out by adventure seekers, a cycling citadel, a freshwater surfing sanctuary, the kingdom of urban kayaking, where even kites are captivating. It's the city built by brews, the beer garden boomtown, the Bloody Mary metropolis of America, the province of polka, the spice sanctuary of the, well, you get it. Simply put, it's a great place on a great lake. It's Milwaukee, and yes, it's totally random and totally wonderful. So stop by and let us show you around.
The 2021 virtual Tour of America's Dairyland is brought to you by Quick Trip, going the extra mile for you. By Project Echelon, educating, equipping, and empowering veterans through physical activity. By Hyperice, move better and enhance your recovery with Hyperice. And by Nations, enhancing the reach of esports, including the Echelon Racing League. Nice shot of the Milwaukee Art Museum with the signature wings. The Burke Brisé Soleil form a movable sunscreen with a 217-foot wingspan. It's made up of 72 steel fins ranging in length from 26 to 105 feet. It takes 3.5 minutes for those wings to open and close. The sensors on the fins continually monitor wind speed and direction, so when the winds exceed 23 miles an hour for more than 3 seconds, those wings close automatically. One of the coolest parts of Milwaukee, right on the water there, Todd. It's a beacon of Milwaukee when you get into town, when you fly into General Mitchell. It's always one of the first things that you see when you're driving up to places like Shorewood along the water. It's like, I'm in Milwaukee, baby.
Yeah, the Art Museum is iconic on the lakefront, but there's so much else that goes on there. Just north of the Art Museum is really one of the busiest kite flying centers in the Midwest. There's a shop that's there every summer, all kinds of creative kites. It's just a great place to hang out.
All right, check this out. While we were in break, that group of 5 went down to 3 as Godby, Wiseman, and Tracy going clear. They dropped Sidlick and Strello. So Stephanie Sidlick and Anna Strello, the latest victims to this group, as this will be down to 3 up at the front. Now, they're working through some lapped riders here. So, like, you see a pair of the Amy D Foundation riders there. Those are riders that are a lap down, so don't worry about them in there. Godby, Tracy, and Wiseman are the 3 that you need to know in here. Let's go back and figure out what happened to Sidlick and Strello. Sidlick going to be all by herself here. Strello even further back at about, 50 meters back behind Stephanie Sidlick. There's Anna Strello. So this one exploded in the last couple minutes here as it went from 5 down to 3. The selection being made up at the front with Godby, Tracy, and Wiseman. Now, again, these riders that are off the back have to make a decision. Do they wait up for these riders behind them with riders like Rogers, Chafin, and McGregor at 52 minutes in here? You might be better advised to just sit up, get in the draft, sit in, and then try and out-sprint them, because you can bet, Frankie, those riders that just got dropped out of this group don't have a whole lot left in the legs. So they may be better off just pulling the plug now, try and settle for like a 7th, 8th place finish rather than completely imploding and maybe ending up outside the top 10.
Yeah, a little bit surprising with Sidlick and Strellau coming off the back, and they're not even together. They came apart at different times on the race course, and so Sidlick is in the red zone still, 7.4, 6.3. Trying to be able to make her way back here. But once that gap opens up, the speed is high. It's so difficult to be able to catch back up to the leaders. And, of course, you're not only catching up to, like, regular leaders, you're catching up to the superhuman leaders, which is Godby, Tracy, and Wiseman. So these 3 riders did a fantastic job in the final portions of this race to kind of put themselves in a good position to try to win Giro de Grafton.
Todd, a little different today than we saw yesterday. Big group made it to the finish line yesterday, but this looks like, I'm going to guess these 3 stay together, but this really changes the dynamics of sprinting against 3 versus sprinting against, let's say, 8 that they had yesterday.
Yeah, I think there are 3 stories up front. Godby is she's jumped into the phone booth, pulled out the cape, and she's doing her Superwoman thing. Christy Tracy is all about the opportunity. She has a chance to really jump up on the individual. And I'm guessing that Eleanor Wiseman wants to make good after dropping in the last lap yesterday. I'm guessing Eleanor Wiseman's going to ride angry towards that line and see if she can't improve her position. Fourth yesterday with a heroic effort. And I mean, you have to keep in mind she's racing in Europe. It was 1 a.m. when she's putting down 6, 7, 8, 9 watts per kilogram to catch back on to the lead group. So 3 good stories at the front of the race with 8 laps to go.
Yeah, and 3 different motivations up here, Frankie. You got Jackie Godby, who has more wins than she knows what to do with. Christy Tracy, who's fighting for the overall. And then Wiseman trying to improve on her stage result yesterday. So there's a chance that all 3 of these riders will be happy with the result of how this one plays out today, because all 3 of these riders could walk away with what they came for today.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, Wiseman sitting in 5th overall in the series. In 3rd, and Todd's brought it up a couple times, with Doble Hickok having to go to her professional cycling team's training camp in Moab. All 3 could gain something here. But I'm sure Christy Tracy, with all of the results that she has gotten, would love to be able to get another win underneath her belt, to be able to try to dethrone, let's say, Jackie Godby. And, of course, Godby doesn't want that to happen, and Eleanor Wiseman doing a fantastic ride to be there. So, I mean, Wiseman really, to be able to finish and to be able to do that chase that she did yesterday to get back on, also to be able to stay there longer than Strehlau and Sidlick, already she should be super pleased with 8 laps to go.
So we were talking about the podium presentation for the para-athletes, and I want to give a direct shout-out because there's a gal by the name of Beth Rice who does so much work behind the scenes. Virtual racing, there's a lot of people. Mike Zalewski is sitting in master control with thousands of monitor screens and buttons all over the place, putting all this stuff together. When we get into IRL racing, there is so much work that people like Beth Rice and the founders, Bill Koch and Tom Schuler, do to make this stuff happen. But I'm pointing out Beth Rice. She is a phenomenal help. She's thinking ahead. She's thinking through how to make this the best series possible. That's just one of the people that make the Tour of America's Dairyland so rich.
One of the most positive people you'll ever meet in your life. She has turned more than one of my days around after some long tours on the road. So that's another person I missed from the Tour of America's Dairyland. I know we'll get back there and see Beth soon. Boy, these 3 riders, talk about earning your keep up at the front today for Wiseman and Tracy holding on to Jackie Godby. This is, they're getting what they paid for, that's for sure. And I think at this point, Jackie Godby might be letting off just a little bit. At some point, Godby has to say, all right, I've done what I can. I've done the damage. Now it's time to let this one play out. The one thing I will say about Jackie Godby is that she's not afraid to kind of change the game plan to make the race a little bit more interesting. It's not all about winning for Jackie Godby. If she has a chance to kind of ride with the group and mix things up and maybe make a play somewhere in there, I think she'll do that because Jackie Godby likes some competition. She likes to race. She enjoys the gameplay and the strategy of racing on RGT. So wouldn't be surprised to see Jackie Godby sitting in with Christy Tracy and Eleanor Wiseman here for the finish. Frankie, you've seen it before. Even though Jackie Godby is a serious competitor, she's a serious winner, she likes to have fun. I mean, in her post-race interview, she's always very lighthearted. She's not taking this too seriously. She races like she's taking it seriously, but she's really found a good balance here between the competitive element but still having some fun out there.
I agree with you. Her competitive instinct is serious, but she's having a good time, and she races as though she's having a good time. I mean, she enjoys it. She enjoys suffering. She enjoys pushing herself. She enjoys, setting a personal best power level at like the Joe Martin time trial. She gets a kick out of that, and so. Now I think they're just kind of riding together, just kind of staying together. But Sidlick, who's in no man's land all by herself, still see her putting out 8 watts per kilogram. It's like she hasn't slowed down at all, and she's continuing trying to be able to catch up to our 3 leaders. And now Christy Tracy's giving it a dig. So Godby likes having the competitive nature of all of these athletes kind of going against her, and she likes rising up to the challenge, and she enjoys that. And it really, you can see that after the race when you talk to her. she's all smiles. I mean, the girl is never down, never depressed, always smiling and putting in a good word about, how she feels and how her ride went.
Anna Strenlow is making Sidlick work. She is barking at the heels. There's a battle going on right now for fourth place in this race, and Sidlick knows that she is not alone. We're underneath 100 meters now, the gap. Anna Strenlow, she's also laying down some red numbers here, so Sidlick's trying to fight off and at least preserve fourth place on the day.
Yeah, again, the race is not always just at the front of these virtual races. So many times we see riders getting locked into battles a little further back. So the Strello-Sidlick battle might be a good one out there today. I don't think Tracy, Godby, and Wiseman are going to have to worry about them. I think that's probably the last time that these three will see the two behind them, because we're getting down to it. They're going to be seeing 5 to go when they roll across the line here. So we're going to know pretty quickly if Jackie Godby is going to try and sort of slow burn this one away and just keep a high tempo, keep that power on for the last 5 laps, or if she's going to let this one go down to the last lap and maybe have a chance to sprint against Wiseman and Tracy. Normally, I would say Godby is not a sprinter, Todd, but since she's down to just 2 riders, maybe she's thinking, well, I can sprint in a group of 3. It's certainly not the same sprinting when you're sprinting out of a small group than a bunch gallop to the line.
Yeah, as I was saying, we got 3 different stories, and frankly, as Frankie's been talking about Christy Tracy's race pedigree, she's not unfamiliar with just laying down big watts for a long period of time, so that's actually closer to what Godby is used to doing. We see her pushing just a little bit off the front. Godby actually doing a nice job playing the RGT dynamics. I've seen her a couple times put in a little bit of wattage increase going into those corners, which makes the competitors work just that much harder on the other side of that particular corner. So we'll see if she continues to do that. 5 laps to go. Good battle at the front of the Giro de Grafton.
Yeah, I would say if one rider gets into trouble in this group, it's probably going to be in a corner, Frankie. I mean, it's going to be a rider that just has a brief moment, a brief lapse of attention to get dropped off, because I'm not seeing Godby putting in the early power that she was. I'm not seeing them in the red zone a whole lot out there right now. So if a rider gets gapped off here, I think it's probably going to be in a corner.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, as much as this is a physical battle, it's also a mental battle. Being able to stay focused, stay on the wheel, and put out the correct power at the right time. And you talk about a mental battle. I mean, these are 3 very intelligent athletes. Eleanor Weissman has a PhD in agriculture and resource economics. Jackie Godby, PhD, also going to becoming a doctor, and then and Christy Tracy works in finance. And so all of them mentally, trying to figure out, looking at the numbers and calculations and strategy and tactics. It's a physical game and it's a mental game that's going on right now. Getting into these final laps, trying to think about. Godby's thinking about how to win, and the other 2 are thinking about how to beat Godby.
Great point, talking about the professional lives outside of this. Yeah, very interesting how smart and successful this trio is up on the front. We talked about Jackie Godby's hectic schedule, or hectic next few months in her life coming up, but Christy Tracy staying pretty busy as well. We talked about her in real life racing schedule that she's going to try and get underway here in 2021. They actually built a sprinter van with a mobile office in it for Christy Tracy so that she can work in the van while her husband drives to the next event. They're basically trying to do a full schedule this season. So Christy is going to be working her regular 8 to 5, 8 to 6 job in finance, and then working out of the van in between races. Pretty cool. Not a bad way to get some racing in there for Christy Tracy. But Todd, that can get stressful. You got to be pretty good at what you do to be able to handle a life like that.
Right, and because each one of those things requires focus. If you're going to race and you're going to race well, you need to be focused. But she's also, obviously, handling people's finances. You want to make sure you're focused there. And she's trying to manage that while she's on the road, traveling, situations where she's going to have to go find food, etc., so forth. It's a great challenge. I mean, you've spent a lot of time living on the road. I've had little bits and pieces of that as well. Frankie, You've taken teams on the road. You've raced yourself. It's a lot of fun, but it is not without its taxing element. And if you're trying to do something really well, it does require that extra bit of focus.
We've never had to work a finance job either. That's a whole different world.
Well,
Thank goodness.
that involves actually having finances to work with, and
We work in bike racing. There's not a lot of financing going around unless you're putting a new bike on a credit card with 28% interest.
Well, you know what they say, Brad. The best way to make $1 million as a bike race announcer is start with $2 million.
I'm only like $1.9 million away, so I'll be a millionaire in no time. All right, down to 3 laps to go for our 3 leaders up here. Godby back into the red zone here, so she's starting to put the pressure on again. Remember, she took a little break there for a while. There was a like 10-lap window, I think, where she was kind of riding in the green and blue zone for a while, but now she's starting to get back up to it, the yellow, orange, and red zones on the power meters. By the way, each of the riders' power zones that we're talking about are unique to those riders. It's based on their FTP. They have to do these tests, basically, to figure out the FTP, and then the game RGT figures out what zone based on their range, basically. They know what their maximum, the FTP is functional threshold power, and so they work down the range from there. So they start at the top, figuring out what a rider's maximum power is, and then the game can figure out each of their unique zones from recovery up to the highest zone, which they call pain, which most riders will only be able to stay in for a few moments. So it's all about basically the watts per kilo. The weight and the power go into sort of create this magic number that we use to measure effort out there on the bikes, and incredibly important here in the Echelon Racing League. By the way, we are pretty confident in the numbers that these riders are putting out. We were talking about like Jackie Godby's insane numbers that would be like world hour record numbers, but these are verified numbers. They go through a verification process. They have to check the trainers to make sure that they're calibrated correctly. Each rider has to submit 2 power files. It's called dual power recording, so they have to record a power file on 2 different devices that get submitted to the league after a good result or after a win like that. So there's a few different things that they do to make sure that these rides and these numbers are legit. And then, of course, the weigh-in process as well. Frankie, we were talking about this earlier with Chris Doble-Hickok. They have this insane process of weighing in for the riders. They have to submit this video where it like shows the current date. It shows them holding an object of known weight, so you can calibrate the scale. You have to show the scale and then show you getting on the scale, and then you just the object on the scale. There's this whole process that every rider has to go through for weight verification every week, because again, that's a huge part of how they calculate the speed here on RGT. So I know Chris Doble-Hickok was posting about how she was pretty pumped to not have to weigh herself while holding a dumbbell anymore, because she's getting ready to wrap up her virtual racing season, and she was saying, thankfully, I think this might be the last time I have to do this in 2021. No weigh-ins in real-life bike racing.
Yeah, and Doble-Hickok mentioned she's going to try to come back for maybe Saturday and Sunday to be able to race and balance it out with her camp. But the e-bio passport that Echelon Racing League set up, it's important. You got to have the trust, the honesty, and as Brad, you had mentioned, the numbers are legit, and it's on the men's side and the women's side. So we're going to see some impressive numbers getting ready to come up once again as they accelerate, because we are moments away from having 1 lap to go.
All right, getting ready.
I was watching Eleanor Wiseman's numbers just a little bit, and she's savvy. She's riding those corners well. The only time she's getting north of 3 watts per kilogram is when she's in the front of that group, but she's trying to tuck in behind, and when she does, her watts per kilogram are dropping down around 2. I'd be interested in seeing her average power across the entirety of this race, and let's see if it plays into some conservation that's going to serve her well in the last 1.4 kilometers.
All right, Tom Schuler, ring the bell.
1 to go, 1 to go, 1 to go, 1 to go, 1 to go.
I love the enthusiasm. You don't get that anywhere else. That's genuine there from Tom.
That's artwork right there. That's artwork. Be sure to sign that, Tom.
All right, well, it's going to come down to these three on the front as Godby, Tracy, and Wiseman running out of time to play whatever hand they're going to play out there today. Looks like Godby going to go with the long-range pressure attack for these riders. Here is Godby and Tracy as Wiseman moving up a little bit now on the outside. But look at the power bars, the colored bars below their name. Nice job by Godby letting off into the corner here. That's going to allow Wiseman to get back up here. Now, Wiseman not attacking here. She was just kind of overcompensating, I guess, moving past those riders as she was trying to catch back on. So Godby might be able to catch some riders off guard. This is interesting, Frankie, because normally I think she likes to ratchet power up and hold it there, but Godby is letting off a little bit right now.
Yeah, and a little bit of a rare sighting, seeing her out of the saddle early on, except for the sprint. So easing up a little bit. And so will Christy Tracy. When she comes around the final, maybe Christy Tracy can catch her by surprise, and we'll have a drag race of power, a drag race of watts. But Godby, we know, can sprint extremely well. And so they're content right now. They're going to stay together, and then we're just going to have to be able to see how that timing goes. And you can see that there's her, Cooper, her fiance, in the upper left-hand corner giving directions, and Tracy getting directions also, as that's super important coming into the final.
Here goes Christy Tracy leading the sprint out. Godby going to get on her wheel. She'll come over the top. Wiseman into the red as well, but Jackie Godby doing what she does best. She's going to make it 13 at the Echelon Racing League as Jackie Godby will pick up another win here in Grafton. Crushed them out there. This woman is on another level as Jackie Godby picks up another win for Triple X Racing. This looks like Wiseman slipped in for second, and Christy Tracy going to have to hold on for third out there today. But, wow, dominant win there by Jackie Godby. Todd did not see that one coming. I think I thought they were going to be a little closer than that one.
I did too, but 13 watts per kilogram, there's just no answer for that. She peaked up there, 13 watts per kilogram. Again, a power weight that takes a power number that takes into consideration the weight so that it's all on the same plane. 13 watts per kilogram. Bye-bye, see ya. 100 meters to go. She took off and owns the line at the Giro de Grafton.
Barely even looks gassed. She's saving her power files right now. This is always the first thing that she does, make sure that the power files registered and are clean before she submits those in. So we're going to let the rest of our riders finish up. We got a few more riders out there. Stephanie Sidlick on her way into the finish line, and then we'll see Anastrello behind her with McGregor, Rogers, Chafin, and Larson still to come in. So a few more finishers, and then we'll grab a word with our race winner, Jackie Godby, right after this.
As an athlete, getting marginally better is one thing. Getting exponentially better puts you in a whole new ballgame. Biomoto uses a proprietary digital process to capture movement at 200 frames per second and 70 sensors per foot to measure ground-based forces, resulting in advanced motion analysis that's up to 10 times more accurate than orthotics. It's the data generated by this process that allows Biomoto to construct custom insoles that make athletes faster, stronger, and more stable, and results in an unprecedented 95% success rate. As an athlete, getting marginally better is one thing. Getting exponentially better puts you in a whole new ballgame. Biomoto uses a proprietary digital process to capture movement at 200 frames per second and 70 sensors per foot to measure ground-based forces, resulting in advanced motion analysis that's up to 10 times more accurate than orthotics. It's the data generated by this process that allows Biomoto to construct custom insoles that make athletes faster, stronger, and more stable, and result in an unprecedented 95% success rate.
All right, welcome back. Watching our final finishers on the way in. These are the riders that were with that front group with the Christy Tracy, Jackie Godby, Eleanor Wiseman trio. So now watching Rogers, we saw Strello just ahead of her and then should have McGregor behind her. So we're going to keep an eye on these riders, let our top 10 get in, and then we'll grab a word with our race winner, Jackie Godby. Frankie, this is a tough spot, too. I mean, being solo out here on RGT after a day of racing, it's pretty tough to maintain this tempo. You're pretty deflated after you've been dropped out of the group. If you don't have anyone to ride with, it's really hard to maintain that power.
Especially in the beginning, because think about it, you were redlined, right? You were trying to keep up as long as possible until your legs gave out, and then you ended up getting dropped. And so being in no man's land like that is a very tough, and especially you're riding around, you're not getting an advantage of riding with anybody, not getting the advantage of being in the draft. So it can be a little bit discouraging. So, I mean, that's why it's great to be able to see the riders. They don't quit. They keep going. Velocity Vixen, Amy D Foundation. These riders are out here, and and everything they're doing right now is benefiting them. Once they get out to spring weather and they get into summertime, all of this racing, which is like training, is going to help them a little bit later on. So that's good to see them continuing to push through.
So Chafin on a lap up from the other riders that she was with here, 9, 10, 11, 12, a lap down on Morgan Chafin. So Chafin will finish up next time through the line. The other riders will still have one more to go. So we'll stick with Morgan Chafin here. We'll cheer her in all the way to the line. Always like to watch as many riders as we can finishing up. It's about more than just the riders at the top of the finish line, or top of the results board, I should say. We were talking about the different goals for every rider, and for Morgan Chafin, might just be trying to tap out the tempo here, trying to finish up the distance for the Giro de Grafton to get back out there tomorrow.
Well, it is Velocity Vixens that's leading the team competition and wanting to get as many of their riders across the line as possible, even if it's not in the top 5, because all of that adds up. So, and that's one of the fun things of putting together a virtual team is your contribution matters. Nothing wrong with that.
No, and Chaffin got into cycling because she used to teach a spin class, and so that's kind of how she started. She comes from Nebraska. She's raced in real life the Joe Martin stage race where she had a bad crash. That led her to triathlon. Then she started racing Ironman, and she's discovered the virtual racing. And so she's done, it's a little bit new for her, but she's done extremely well with that. Considering, she's coming from teaching spin classes, and she's going against, a 3-time Chicago Ironman triathlon winner of Jackie Godby. So Chaffin doing a fantastic job as the rest of the riders come through. I think they have one more lap to go.
All right, Chaffin in and done. In the meantime, let's go to our race winner, Jackie Godby. Jackie, congratulations. Can you hear us all right?
Yes, can you hear me? How's the audio?
Loud and clear. We're getting used to this now that we've done this so many times. I think this was your 13th win in the Echelon Racing League. But everyone seems to be different. We were talking about how the finish out there today was significantly different from the finish yesterday. The smaller group coming to the line, but it looked like you kind of played that finish a little different today.
Yeah. I think looking at the finish line yesterday, we had a big hill coming into the finish, so we knew that there was going to be a big punch. I know that Krista Double Hickok was really going to play to her strengths. She's a fantastic hill climber. She's so light, she's so punchy. And then today, it was a much flatter course. We come in from that last turn with 400 meters to go. So, I also knew rolling into the line, I'm rolling in with Christy Tracy. I'm rolling in with some great diesel engines that have this fantastic capacity for a longer sprint. So, they were 2 very different finishes, and we were going up against 2 very different races and just very, very different strengths of the field.
What was the situation today with the group getting whittled down? I think we missed the big moment where it went from like 5 down to 3. Was that an acceleration from you that caused the split, or how did that the last split happen?
I was treating every small hill as an opportunity for an acceleration. I think hills are just a fun part of the course. I enjoy kind of prodding the group, making everybody feel as much pain as me. And I think what happened, I think the last 2 women just got caught off of that last turn, with those quick S turns right at the top of the hill. I think we just lost them there. There was Christy Tracy took us off of a very tough climb into a fast acceleration, and I think they just missed the draft on the downhill. Very, very similar to what we saw in the early season. And because it was such a small group, because it was only a group of 3, there was no kind of dangling draft to grasp onto. It was half second and you missed it.
Yeah, that's part of racing on RGT. You really have to stay focused. We see it with you watching that screen like a hawk. I mean, you really don't look away a whole lot. There's not a whole lot of opportunities to take a break mentally when you're racing on RGT.
I actually think that's a feature. When I'm in the game, you're absolutely right. Like I'm looking at my own watts per kilo. I'm looking at the racing field, trying to figure out the optimum draft pocket, trying to figure out who's with me, when they're going to accelerate, anticipate the big moves. But all of that thinking means I can't think about how much my legs are hurting. So, it's kind of a mind over matter. And if my head's in 1,000 different places, I can't feel the pain, I can't feel the burn, and I can just push myself beyond what I might do if I don't have that game aspect to it.
2 days down, 2 days to go in the virtual Tour of America's Dairyland. Is it more confidence with 2 wins already, or more fatigue with 2 rides under your legs already?
Both, honestly. But, I think the important thing going in forward, each race is going to be different. Each race is going to be new. I know that we're picking up some new riders tomorrow who will have fresh legs, ready to go for some more sprint finishes. And just got to keep it all in perspective. This is fun. This is why we do it. And get to go out there, race, and, dig down deep and find the best parts of us.
2 for 2 racing continues tomorrow. Jackie, congratulations on big number 13. You got a chance to go 15 this weekend. We'll be
oh my goodness, you're going to make me knock on wood here. Like I gotta.
All right, keep up the good work. Congratulations, Jackie.
Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Well, guys, you heard it. Jackie Godby not afraid to have a little bit of fun, but it sounds like that's not the last that we've heard of Godby this weekend, Frankie. We're going to be seeing a lot more of her up on the front.
So strong. Todd had mentioned it, 13, 14 watts per kilogram. If you can do that at any time, even in the very beginning of the race, much less after an hour and 10, that's super impressive. And yeah, she said, talking about, prodding her competitors to kind of see how they're going to go. And she's just so strong, and her sprint's incredible, and she picks up more points, right? This is another point. And as you had just mentioned, this is her 14th win out of the 20 races we've had in the series.
And look at what's happening right here. Second place, we talked about it, Eleanor Wiseman, 3.8 watts per kilogram average, less than third and fourth place. There's a real advantage to being a savvy racer on the RGT platform. Or you're just an enormous V8 engine like Jackie Godby, and it doesn't matter.
Oh, Godby gets another win as she goes number 12 today at the Tour of America's Dairyland Echelon Racing League. That is going to do it for us from the Giro de Grafton, the virtual Tour of America's Dairyland. For Frankie Andreu and Todd Bastide, my name is Brad Soner saying thanks for watching. Racing continues tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern as we head to Shorewood for the Tour of America's Dairyland. Hope to see you there for more racing from the Echelon Racing League.